Wes Buck Show.
It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. This is the biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred.
Speaking his mind.
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way.
Exploring hot topics.
Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do.
And spreading the gospel of drag racing.
I respect the history. I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing.
The Wes Buck Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. Somehow, some way, it's almost October. Holy cow. This is live from Drag Illustrated Studio in Fort Worth, Texas, the Wes Buck Show. What's going on, guys? I hope everybody's doing well out there today. As always, I got to tell you, thank you all so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart. Every Wednesday, I don't know why I get so turned up about this stuff, but it literally just, it lights my fire, so to speak, to know that we're going to get to talk drag racing with all of our friends, family here in the racing world. It's an incredible privilege and an incredible honor to get to do this every Wednesday. We got a whale of a show for you today, no doubt about it. I feel like we've really been crushing it the past several weeks, really. Monumental guest after monumental guest after monumental guest, and we're going to continue that trend here today on the Wes Buck Show. I believe about 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be joined by the new NMCA Extreme Pro Mod champion of the world, Chip King. Very exciting to talk to Chip. I don't know that Chip's as much of a household name in the Pro Mod world as he really deserves to be. This guy's been a part of the scene for as long as anybody's been paying attention to Pro Mod. He's been a part of it since damn near the onset, and to be able to get a little bit of wisdom from him to peel back that fast door slammer onion with Chip King, really excited about that. 2:30 coming up in about a half hour. After that, we'll be joined by the princess of street legal drag racing herself, Alex Taylor, who will be joining us to talk a little bit about her huge win on Rocky Mountain Race Week. Debuted a brand new car on Drag Week a couple of weeks ago. Family built 55 Chevy, really cool looking hot rod, comes out, clicks off a slew of 7-second passes, scores the win in Rocky Mountain Race Week, which is a really fast-growing event, so it's going to be exciting to talk to her. Then we'll kind of round out the show. Last but not least, about 3:30 Central Standard Time, an hour and a half from right now, we will be joined by Popeye himself, the streetcar, pro street legend, engine building legend, one of the most, I think, funnest people to talk to in all of drag racing. The man himself, Pat Musi, scored a big win this past weekend, calling the shots on his daughter Lizzie Musi's car in No Prep King action. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. A huge week in drag racing, honestly. Last week we had the NHRA national event in St. Louis, No Prep Kings, of course, in Tucson, Arizona. We also had Streetcar Takeover roll into Atlanta Dragway for the last time. It's something that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about. Kind of an amazing thing to talk about, going to Commerce, Atlanta Dragway for the last time. It's a weird thing to say that out loud. We do have a special guest at the end of the show. Toward the end, when we kick open the cocktails and start to cut up a little bit, we're going to be joined by Andy Carter, GM of the Texas Motorplex, to talk about what's being called the richest week in drag racing, a huge event down here in my neck of the woods, right outside of Dallas, Texas. The Texas Stampede of Speed. This is going to be a barn burner. I know that's like my word of the year, but 9 days at the Motorplex is going to be spectacular, and I can't wait to get out there. We got some big news coming next week about the Texas Stampede of Speed and our involvement here on the show and at Drag Illustrated Magazine, so we're excited. But before we dive into all that, I got to check in with the boys from the hood here, the homies. What's going on, Mike? What's going on, JT? How's everybody doing?
What's up, man?
Man, we're just doing the deal, living the dream, right? Talking a little bit.
Absolutely. Lots to talk about.
Dude, it has been...
It's the meat of the season, man. Fall racing season.
Is this your favorite time of the year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, record-setting season. I actually thought about doing shirts one time. Like, it's record-setting season. You know what I mean?
Season. SZN. Season.
SZN. Yeah, we should do that. Actually, somebody look into doing
trademark.
that.
Nobody else do that before.
Yeah, please, nobody beat us to record-setting season. And hey, before we dive into this week's big questions, and I know JT's got a bunch of them queued up for Mike and I, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit from JT. But I do want to ask everybody, remember, click like, click share. It makes a huge difference. I can't tell you guys enough. You're helping us spread the message. If you enjoy what you see, if you like being a part of this drag racing conversation, please click like, click share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I will
Shout
tell
out
you
to everybody on YouTube. tons of YouTube comments coming in already. Keep those coming, man.
Keep those YouTube comments coming. I'll tell you guys, and I don't mean to get like the cart ahead of the horse here, guys, but I do think we should start to let people know that in the coming weeks, we haven't set an official date, but I do want to let everybody know that in the coming weeks, we will be transitioning to broadcasting this show exclusively on YouTube. As much as we love the platform that we've had here at Facebook, we just really... we're quadrupling down on this show right now. We've got a lot of huge plans coming up for later in the year and in 2022. And we just feel that we would be best served by committing to the YouTube platform. So be preparing for that. If you don't mind, it's a little bit of an ask, but I would love for you to check out the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel. You can search for us on YouTube. Just click subscribe. You'll get notifications every time we go live. You'll see us scheduling this show every Tuesday. And I promise you there's a ton of really cool, exciting content right around the corner. But JT, let's get into this week's big questions, brother. You're going to play the video, or are you just going to look at me awkwardly?
I'm going to look at you awkwardly. Is that okay?
Oh, this guy. I tell you what, man. What do we... Here, I got it. You ready? Five,
you got
4,
it.
3, 2, 1. Right here. I was supposed to have some background music playing. I want to remind everybody that every week this show is brought to you by our friends at Elite High Performance, Elite HP, right in Fort Worth, Texas, the world leader in new, used race cars, parts, engines. They present to you our questions every week. We love the guys over there, Marty Robertson, Mick Snyder, the whole gang. Be sure to check out their entire inventory. It changes all the time. We got a really cool we're going to talk about during a car that we're going to talk about during after hours. To check out everything they have to offer, check out EliteHP.com. JT, what do you got for us, brother?
Yep, let's dive into these. Question 1. Last year's NHRA World Champions, aside from Pro Street Motorcycle, all won St. Louis. What?
Pro Stock Motorcycle.
Pro Stock Motorcycle. Do you think they'll keep it up through the rest of the races to win back-to-back titles? Mike, why don't you start this one?
I think they've got a good shot at it. I think we're seeing, like we've talked about for weeks, with Erica, the clutch gene. I think I'm going to copyright that too. Got to get shirts made for that crew that says clutch gene. I mean, this team turns it on when it's countdown season. And I think we're seeing that. Also, Matt Hagan coming back from the COVID situation. That team has been strong all year. And of course, what can you say about Steve Torrance? So yeah, I really do believe we are looking at the 3 front runners for the championship on the winner's podium this week.
Wes, what do you think?
I've got to say that a couple things. Am I right that St. Louis is like a momentum race? If I'm correct, if history serves me, I believe Erica Enders has won this race the last 3 years in a row.
I believe so. I think she went into this weekend with a back-to-back streak at that race.
So she's a 3-time champion in St. Louis, and I think that not that in itself is indicative of what's going to happen next, but I really look at St. Louis, and I had this conversation with a handful of teams earlier in the week. I believe St. Louis is one of those kind of nail in the coffin type of events. We're at this real pivotal, obviously there's plenty of time for things to change, but this is one of those races where you start to see the finish line.
It's an underrated race.
It really
underrated
is an
track.
underrated
I mean,
race.
that's a fast track. And if the weather is right, which it usually is when they're going there in late September, that place, they're hauling ass at that place. And you saw that this weekend. And it really kind of starts to separate the men from the boys or the ladies from the girls. I
mean, that's my point, is that I think that this race, there's an air about St. Louis Worldwide Technology Raceway that everybody goes there knowing that now's the time. If you're going to make a move, if you're going to do something spectacular, you better do it right now, because to your point, Mike, everybody is kind of settling in those number 1 spots. And I believe we've got a dogfight ahead of us in all of these categories. I really do. But if you really, if you want my honest, like my betting line or whatever, bruh, this, you may as well start getting names on trophies as far as I'm concerned. I want to say that I think we are blessed in time, and this isn't necessarily anything new. It's been going on for quite a while, but everybody loves to kind of hate the NHRA or identify any issues that exist. And everybody wants to talk about car counts, this, that, and the other. If you look at St. Louis and you use that as like a sample of what drag racing has to offer from an entertainment standpoint, holy, batten down the hatches, dude. Top Fuel, I mean, that show that they put on, watching E1 unfold and all these incredible runs, qualifying was bananas. The whole deal. Then pro stock, I mean, Erica Enders and Dallas Glenn in the final 010, 001, just incredible side-by-side drag racing. I believe
we're going to have to break that down later.
We will break that down a little bit later in the show. But I mean, it was a hell of an outing, I think, for the NHRA. Beautiful weather, the stands. Holy crap! On Friday,
a little warmer than normal here, but it was a super nice weekend.
Well, that's a track that's had its ups and downs, right? I mean, how many times did we hear about that place going under in the last
closed for like 2 or 3
so?
years, dude.
So,
do you remember when we ran those photos in the magazine with the grass growing up through the track?
Yeah, that was crazy because we had just been there a couple years prior with the ADRL.
It's funny.
It was booming. And honestly, I wanted to talk about Chris Blair, the promotion aspect of the track, what that can do for an event, for a facility. So let's talk a little bit about that, Wes. That's kind of your forte.
Well, first and foremost, it's a tough thing because St. Louis, historically, that track is not necessarily known for drawing huge crowds a lot, right? I mean, there's some landmark events that have happened there. I think of like ADRL in 08 or right around there
09,
when there was 09, 08.
09 and 10 were just like barn burners there.
Literally like scary, the amount of people that came out for those events. And I've seen some hellacious crowds that the NHRA has produced there, but it's not necessarily... It's always kind of weirded me out because St. Louis is weird. I don't know. And I guess now living in a city, having never lived in a city previously, now living in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're reminded that like, it's not just St. Louis where there's something going on all the time. Right. I mean, but my original belief system was that there were so many entertainment options in St. Louis. You got the Blues at that time earlier, you had the Rams, you had the Cardinals that people literally live and die for. You've got a barbecue festival going on all the time. I mean,
it's kind of in a weird location, right? Madison, Illinois, right across the border.
East St. Louis,
right
basically.
Isn't it right beside the Cardinals Stadium?
It's right across the river, right across the river from the Cardinal Stadium. But I mean, it's interesting because it's not, I don't know that that's an event that the NHRA looks at necessarily as as a measuring stick or like a high water mark for them.
But
it
they
looked
slide
like
it in.
This year.
It's like they slide it in on the countdown. You've got Indy, you've got Charlotte, you've got Vegas, you've got Pomona typically. And then it's like, whoop, St. Louis. And you kind of forget about it. Yeah, slide it in there. But I mean, it's a huge event.
I love going.
It's underrated.
It's funny because it falls on my birthday weekend. It typically falls on my wife's birthday or my birthday. And it was actually weird not being there. JT. I don't want a birthday shout out. I do.
Are we going to sing?
No.
What do you want us to do?
No.
Okay.
I think I've just pressed.
Happy birthday, baby.
That's not pretty good.
I tell you what.
Everybody in the comments wish Wes a happy birthday.
No. I ain't here for a birthday. I will say thank you to everybody who did send me a happy birthday message. It's I get a little bit emotional, shocking every year when it didn't give me goosebumps. In fairness, other things do. It's typically drag racing, but it is crazy, and I think both of you guys can relate to this. That I mean, it really wasn't that long ago that I would go to a drag race just hoping to meet a friendly face. Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember going to events like PRI or SEMA and just hoping and praying, literally crossing my fingers, walking down those aisles, just hoping that I would meet somebody that would be nice to me. And 15 years later, as I celebrate,
I was only one.
You were.
You ran into me. And then here we are all these years later.
I know, man. I mean, in 15, 16 years later.
Can't pick your friends. That's family, right?
I feel blessed to be getting, well wishes and happy birthday wishes from around the world. Some of my buddies from over in the Middle East shot me messages in Australia and the UK. And I just think about drag racing has given us the opportunity to travel the world, do all this stuff, do cool things. And I feel infinitely blessed. So thank you to everybody who took a minute to send me a happy birthday note. I appreciate it. But going back to St. Louis, that's just an event that's special for me personally. And it was actually awkward not being there. I found myself on Friday morning going, I could probably get a flight. I think I should probably go.
Your hometown race is next weekend. I get them mixed up because I'm coming down there this weekend. Tulsa, right, is this weekend for Midwest
Drag Racing Series. Yeah.
And then we've got Ennis next weekend. I get it mixed up. There's so many races going on. every weekend in September and October. Like my calendar looks ridiculous.
Pro Mod alone, PDRA races this weekend. Galat going to be I think it's going to be a nasty one.
You're about to say barn burner. Right?
I was about to say, and I changed course. Going to be a great drag race.
Game.
Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods racing this weekend. Midwest Drag Racing Series racing this weekend. Their biggest event of the year, in my opinion, the Throwdown at T-Town. Tulsa Raceway Park's kind of like huge independent event that they have now married with the Midwest Drag Racing Series. Dude, it's an incredible weekend. And this, again, to your point earlier, Mike, this is just a badass time of the year, right? I get excited talking about this stuff because there's so many great things happening, and the cars run good. The weather's nice. I mean, there's just no place better to be. I'm so excited to have Andy Carter on here because I want to talk about the Texas Stampede of Speed. I know that's a question that we have in the queue here, but I'm fired up at a very high level for this event and just the way they're handling it. But before I skip a question, JT, why don't you tell me? I can't remember what the next
Wes
one
is just crushing your questions.
He is, isn't he? All right. Matt Hagan is the points leader, even though he missed the first countdown race due to COVID. If he wins the championship, will there be an asterisk next to his 2021 title?
No.
Wes.
And I'm going to no, because did you see the way he donkey stomped Bob Tasca the other day? I mean, listen, I probably just kind of dried up the Bob Tasca being on the show deal.
All of Ford Motor Company.
I mean, I probably burnt some bridges just now, but I'm telling you, Matt Hagan, that was brutal. That final round, that was an ass whipping of epic proportion, in my opinion. Just left on him and never looked back. And I'm a little torn on this whole thing. I think everybody knows at this stage in the game that Wes is like a driver's guy. Like I love celebrating the drivers, and I get a little bit weirded out by some of these sanctions and series that award points to the car. I'm not a big fan of I get it. I understand why those things exist, but man, it's about the men and women behind the wheel. It's about the men and women at the controls. And I think anytime we get away from that, it could be problematic. However, in this day and age, 2021, where we're in the midst of a global pandemic, still over a year and a half into
Steve talked about this a couple weeks ago.
I think you gotta, it is what it is. I don't think there's going to be an asterisk. I do think it's crazy that Tommy Johnson Jr. came in and won that race. I mean, that is so insane. But to see Matt just go right back into form, do you agree, Mike? I mean, he's won 3 of the last 4 races. This would be good.
No, I agree that there shouldn't be an asterisk, and I'm tired of asterisks. Like, delete those from everything. All of 2020, is there going to be an asterisk beside everything we do this year? And we're even hearing that in 2021. I'm sick of it. Like we've talked about many times, there's like no record. You have to go back to like stone tablets to figure out all the details of like the early drag races and all of these legends that we respect and love. I mean, there's almost hardly any record of what the situation was, what the rules were, any weird anomalies that happened like this in those times. So to put that on our modern drivers because everything is hyper recorded in today's times, I think is unfair. And also, I disagree with you about that. Drag racing is about the driver in this situation. We all know that drag racing is like 90% in the pits, 10% on the track. So it's about that team. I think that team has shown that that's the strongest crew and the strongest team in Funny Car, whether they've got Tommy Johnson or Matt Hagan, both stellar championship level drivers. But the driver, I don't want to take away from Matt and say that his team's carrying him or anything, but it just showed how strong that team is, and that team deserves to win these races and possibly contend for this championship. And to take that away from that team due to Matt contracting COVID, I think would be unfair.
I agree 1,000,000%. That would be a tragedy if that were to happen. And I was genuinely concerned about it. I mean, you show up at the U.S. Nationals, the biggest drag race in the world, right? And Matt Hagan, the points leader, can't race because of COVID. I mean, it was a disaster of a situation. However, I do wonder, this begs the question a little bit, does drag racing need a Constructors Cup? Isn't that what they call it in Formula One?
Yeah. I mean, they're more serious about that than the drivers. Like the way they try to block each other out on pole or on qualifying to get the 1-2 spot because they're all about that Constructors Championship. I think that's an interesting concept.
I honestly, there has been 2 years ago, and I got to give a little bit of credit to, I believe it was Eric Dillard at Proline Racing Engines, and also maybe Justin Elks at Modern Racing, two guys that are, obviously intimately involved with pro mod drag racing on every level.
A lot of brain power right there.
A lot of brain power right there. But they actually introduced a concept about 2 years ago about a Constructors Cup or a Constructors Championship in pro mod specifically, because so many of those drivers are like independently wealthy or businessmen first and racers second. And they thought, even if it was like secondary to the E3 Sparkplugs NHRA Pro Mod Drag Racing Series Championship, it would be cool if there was a title or a cup or something that would go with the car, because Eric Dillard has filled in for Jose Gonzalez on a number of occasions. There's been other situations where things like that have happened, and his opinion was, and I'm kind of putting words in Dillard's mouth and Elks, I hope they'll forgive me, but they were basically of the opinion, hey, there's some of these guys that only run a handful of races that would probably run all the races if they knew they could compete for a championship no matter who was in the car, right? So it is an interesting perspective.
So it'd be more of a car owners championship.
Yeah, and I honestly think something like that, even we would have to be careful, because drag race, we have this penchant for like going all in on something, but it does, and then like just to hell with everything else. But if that was a secondary thing that existed across the board, because I think that's something that, didn't Don Schumacher Racing go undefeated in Funny Car last year? I don't think they won every race. So sure. I think in that regard, shouldn't they have some hardware that's associated with an accomplishment like that? Because that's not at all.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
you know what I mean? That's not, I mean, it's obviously representative of Ron Capps and Matt Hagan, et cetera, but it's really representative of Don Schumacher. They probably do. Racing.
I mean, if you go in Don Schumacher Racing, they probably have a giant trophy that they manufactured themselves or that Cold Hard Art made and says,
I would
Donkey Stomp 2020 or whatever, Team Schumacher. But it sucks that they have to make it themselves. It should probably be recognized by NHRA. So we can't talk about, JT says we can't talk about Formula One on here too much because it's a drag racing show. So let's be careful.
Well, and I'm not trying to go too far that way, but I do think it's funny as a sport. We can't, like, if we're willing to follow what NASCAR does, shouldn't we be willing to pay attention to like every other sport, right? I mean, if you look back, there's a lot of things that happened in NASCAR, and the next thing you know, it's happening in drag racing, right? And I'm fine with that. Obviously, NASCAR is this behemoth in the world of motorsports, but if they're doing something cool over there, we may as well lean into it or at least consider it. And I think we need more talking points as a sport, to be honest. Like, for the most part, it would not hurt us to have another thing to talk about, another storyline, right? Because I'm sure we would have a really fun thing going on right now between John Force and Don Schumacher, right? Like, these guys are battling neck and neck for the Constructors Cup, and it's going to come down to the final round of the last race of the year to see who wins that title. And you definitely have to be careful of it overshadowing your champion or whatever, but that's never going to be the case, in my opinion. That's not something that's a problem you want to have. So anyways,
I agree that this year we're just off the playbook a little bit, or the past 2 years, really. You're going to have to make some circumstances where if someone gets quarantined or, there's all kinds of scenarios that can happen right now with with the way everything's going. So, I can see it this year. I don't necessarily agree with it every year.
It can't. And this is something that I think the NHRA is going to have to get ahead of, because much like the purse, one of the big things that I think becomes problematic for the NHRA is when they make these concessions or they make these changes, but they don't address what's going to happen next quick enough. So I think that's what happened when the NHRA went to all their pro teams and said, hey, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. We're not allowed to sell tickets to most of these events. And even the ones that we are, it's massively reduced. We have to reduce the payout. We have to reduce the purse. Was not welcomed news from any of the pro teams, but it was at least respected and accepted, where it's like, hey, this makes sense. We're not bringing in a ton of money. We can't pay out a ton of money. But what the NHRA failed to do was identify what was going to happen in the future.
Well, they're just hoping maybe they won't notice, and we'll just keep the purse at this level forever.
I do think that's
until
a little bit of what
somebody asks us about it.
Maybe and I think they've got to, like, if I were NHRA and I would be putting out a release, some sort of news or media release in the coming weeks that would clarify that moving into 2022, hopefully this COVID situation continues to diminish as, you know, everything that goes on is going on. I don't really want to talk about it at all.
Well, they're putting people in the stands, so they're putting the money in their pocket. So, I mean, somewhat. So
someone had to say it, dude.
My God.
We got a comment here from Stan Waxberg. The purse was reduced because Coke gave them the finger. I actually do think we will have to go back and look. We need our fact checker with this, but I do believe there was a purse reduction with the Coke deal, right? With the Coke deal going away, and then the COVID compounded, or was it the same time?
It was the same time.
It
was the same time. Yeah, it was the same time, and it was kind of like that was a questionable decision in itself. Like having this whole thing become public knowledge that there's this lawsuit going on. I was very concerned about it. I don't mean to derail our conversation here, but
we're fully off the rails.
We're fully off the rails. But I honestly think if they put out a thing, you know, at X amount of, at some point in the time, we're going to revisit this.
Well, I don't think they can do that because they don't probably have the confidence to be able to say that, I think NHRA is doing what it thinks to be best at that moment. I don't think that they have the ability to come out with a press release to say, hey, in 2 years, they're going to go back to normal.
No, I think that you just have to say that those discussions are ongoing. Like, yeah. I mean, and I think that this is where, and we've got enough time to touch on this briefly. Going back to the situation with Aaron Stanfield a couple of weeks, I was going
to ask you, have we heard anything about
I have heard a little bit about this. Okay. And it was interesting to me how it was the talk of town, and all of a sudden it's crickets.
Well,
right?
Aaron, didn't he double up in factory stock shootout? And then they were like, let's get this guy on a stage and let's literally blow this out. I feel like they gave him a ton of time. Like, maybe he'll forget about this.
He deserved it. He deserved. I mean,
really did. They really did a good job honoring him. Even the Mountain Motor Pro Stock guys. We talked about this on the show a few weeks ago. How like anything outside of the Camping World Series got no recognition for even being there on the as far as trophy presentation. So they actually did a good job of that this weekend.
I thought they did a fantastic job with it. I'll tell you,
I saw Aaron up there, and I was like,
kudos to Aaron for being like a bigger person. Yeah. Don't you agree? Like, I think
you expect nothing else from him. If you've ever been around this guy, it's just
pure
like
class,
the classiest guy in the world.
Pure class. I will say that if you look at the whole situation, it was interesting because it didn't feel like we were seeing stuff on social media, but this is just when I get frustrated a little bit because I do think there is a crazy reliance on social media, right? Like this deal is going to sort itself out online, but man, someone's got to step up to the plate. I mean, I was hoping to hear some sort of official statement from Elite Motorsports. I was certainly hoping to hear some sort of official statement from the NHRA because I understand that these things are uncomfortable and they're icky and everybody kind of gets up in their feelings and it's delicate. However, fans love this stuff. And sometimes I get like a little bent out of shape because it's like every time we recognize something that the fans love, we turn and run the other direction.
Well, they love to have this stuff to talk about. The controversy, the rumors. I mean,
it's important.
This day and age, for sure.
Away from this stuff. And it's not anything, we're not hurting anybody's feelings. We're not making personal attacks. No. We're just talking about controversial stuff that happens within the gates of that race. I mean, so if it were different, if it was like personal stuff, then obviously, yeah. But
there's a lot to unpack with this, but I will tell you from what I understand, and I've gotten reports from a handful of people, and I feel that I have clarity as much as we're going to get. The NHRA, I don't know the inner workings of how this information was relayed to Aaron Stanfield or the team at Elite Motorsports. I don't know any of that, but I do know that it was determined that something on that car, that white Janik Brothers Camaro, broke the guard beam. They're struggling to kind of identify what it was. I'm not sure what footage was presented. I'm not sure exactly how this was, demonstrated to the team. And I'm not sure that the NHRA felt inclined to have to do that, but they clearly felt confident enough in their decision that something broke the guard beam, something was hanging down, something fell, something came loose.
Talk to us about that for those that may not know with the guard beam.
So basically in drag racing, and I pride ourselves here at Drag Illustrated and the Wes Buck Show, we have a really hardcore audience, but I do recognize that many of you maybe don't know that there's there's these timing systems, man. It's more complicated than it looks, right?
It's
But
super
basically, you have a
complicated.
pre-stage beam.
We're like
a
nervous
stage
even talking
beam.
about it.
I know. It's like, and you have to be
He's
careful.
raked over the coals.
Right? I mean, I'd be prepared to get ripped to shreds. But basically, you have a pre-stage beam, you have a stage beam, and then you have a guard beam. And that guard beam is really serves as something of a protector of the integrity of those other two beams, right? Because NHRA Pro Stock cars, the front end has to be at least 3 inches off the ground, right? The car has to have 3 inches of ground clearance from start to back. And that's so that you don't have anything allowing you to have a bit of a running start at the lights or anything like that. This is a very common thing. And honestly, there's been innumerable instances throughout the course of drag racing history where a car sets a record run, and upon further examination, you recognize that there was a diaper dragging and there was something happening that let the car get a running start at the lights. But anyways, the guard beam was broken by something. I've reached out to some people at the team, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble or whatever, because something broke the guard beam. They've arrived at that. So to the best of my knowledge, that issue has been put to bed. What a glorious moment for the NHRA, because that really felt like something that could have spiraled out of control, man.
That may be the first public acknowledgement of it.
Yeah,
It might
is ridiculous.
be, man.
So
it does
there
seem
were a lot
crazy.
of people that wanted to know if there was a resolution about that. And so a press release, social media post.
And I will tell you what's going on, though. Like in this, I don't mean to go down this road, but the NHRA doesn't have the manpower. That's their issue right now, is that they, in my opinion, if you look at that deal, if you go to the tower at an NHRA national event, they don't have the manpower. They literally, they are up to their elbows trying to put on the race that they're running on a reduced team based on some layoffs that were made during COVID. And I'm not calling anybody out, but it's, as you guys know, our operation, pales in comparison to that of the NHRA, right? I mean, they're roughly 100 times the size of our business, but you are constantly putting out fires. You're constantly addressing situations. You're constantly replying to things. And it's just, I do think that they need to get a little bit more aggressive with their outreach efforts, because man, these are great storylines. Even if they make you uncomfortable and they're not the funnest things to talk about, drag racing fans, as evidenced by this show every Wednesday and the tens of thousands of views we end up getting, people want to talk about drag racing. We want to talk about that. It's the only thing I want to talk about. It's what I care about. I mean, I know people want to talk about this stuff, and we want to hear from the NHRA. They're our NFL. They're our MLB. And I think that heavy's the head that wears the crown. When this shit happens on your watch, you've got to address it. You've got to talk about it publicly. I'm not saying you got to pull back the curtains and let us see how all this stuff works, but man, these are headlines. These are things to talk about. And it feels, even in these problematic situations, they feel like lost opportunities, man.
It feels like they don't. It feels like they don't care about us, or it feels like they don't care about the fans.
Yeah,
to me,
the fans.
To me, it's like oh, they don't give a shit about us.
Right.
That's why they don't tell us anything, and that's why they don't feel like the need that they have to tell us anything, and that doesn't resonate well with me. But
well, and they have to tell us everything. That's the thing. I mean, they have to tell us everything. We want to know everything. And we've been trained to expect everything. Am I right? I mean, if you look at every other sport, I mean, if it's not Hard Knocks, it's their own in-house production, behind the scenes show. I mean, everything is out in the open. Everything's out in the open. I mean, if the Dallas Mavericks decide they're going to wear their blue jerseys instead of white ones, they contact the media and let everybody know, like, hey, just so everybody's aware, we're in the whites tonight, not the blues. Sorry, mistake. Wrong laundry detergent. We're here with the blues. I mean, it's just those moments. You got to talk about this stuff.
Like you said, manpower. They've got someone whose job is to report on jersey colors. You know what I mean? And there's someone else's job to report on other things. And so when you're dealing with, like you said, we know this all too well. When you deal with the same people having to put out all the fires and address all the concerns, it can happen. But that's what we're here for, right? So I'm glad you had that intel.
Here's the final word on that whole situation, and I think we'll save our Texas Motorplex, Texas Stampede of Speed conversation till after hours. I encourage you guys, hang with us after the show. We take questions from all of y'all. We have a special guest today during after hours. Andy Carter, the general manager of the Texas Motorplex, the legendary Texas Motorplex, will join us to talk a little bit about their huge event, the Texas Fall Nationals, coming up just not this weekend, but next. But I do want to say, just in closing, what this highlights, Mike, JT, and all of our friends on the World Wide Web, thank you guys for tuning in. there's no one promoting NHRA drag racing is really the real fact is that there's no one promoting NHRA drag racing. They're doing a fantastic job putting these races on. The television broadcast is fantastic. NHRATV.com, or excuse me, NHRA.tv, the coverage there, very, very good. Way above average. Fantastic. Loans, Tony Pedregon, Reinhardt in the booth, the event, the racers themselves, all these tracks, they're killing it. They are absolutely killing it. But someone has to be out front screaming and yelling about this stuff. Someone has to be the circus master, right? I mean, if you look,
well, even them.
Even them. I mean, they need
even
to have.
Them.
I mean, I see someone referencing Dana White in the comments here. I've lost it in the stream, and I do appreciate everybody commenting and following along. But there's got to be a Dana White. There's got to be someone screaming and yelling, saying that we're the biggest sport in the world. We're the best sport in the world. Drag racing is the original.
Is what you're saying.
Drag racing is the original extreme sport. Right. It's the original extreme motorsport. You've had all these posers come along. Drifting? I mean, are you kidding? They stole tire smoke from us. Screw those guys, right? I mean, that's our deal. Burnouts are drag racing's deal. And it's like you see all these other forms of motorsports growing and expanding, and Red Bull and Monster and all these huge brands arriving there. It's because no one is loud and proud as they should be about NHRA drag racing, man. Somebody has to promote the series. See these opportunities when some dramatic situation happens at the ZMAX Dragway. Someone has to be yelling and screaming about it. Like, I can't wait to just talk about freaking Mike Salinas going 364. Like, I can talk for 2 hours about how insane this is, but it felt like it happened in a vacuum.
Well, speaking of ZMAX and drifting, remember we were there a couple of years ago and they had that big drifting exhibition, like right behind the tower.
I couldn't believe it.
The whole entire attendance was there watching that instead of in the stand.
I mean, and
that's what they want to see. They want to see crazy shit going in circles, hitting these barriers, and they hear a motor bouncing off the limiter and smoke billowing in the air, and every fan in the stands is over there watching that while pros are running on the track.
That's crazy.
That's exaggeration because they didn't do it during the pro session, but it's still it's a good example of your point, Wes.
Real quick correlation there. Speedway Motorsports, right? That was a reflection of that was Speedway Motorsports and the team at Speedway Motorsports at ZMAX Dragway going, hey, we need to find a way to bring some outside fans, some general car culture people into this event that maybe wouldn't come. That is not a reflection of the NHRA. Like, I tip my cap to the NHRA for allowing it to happen, I suppose, but that's the creativity and the marketing savvy of SMI on display. Same goes for this coming Texas Texas Stampede of Speed. That is the product of Andy Carter, right? Billy Meyer, Christy Meyer, Elin Warner. They're promoting this event, and that's it's something that's sorely lacking, in my opinion, at the highest level of drag racing. And guys, we've got a guest in the green room. Before we bring on our first guest of the day, I do want to introduce a brand new partner here on the Wes Buck Show. Huge shout out to everybody, Mike Levy, the whole team, Gabby, Brennan, everybody we've encountered, Mike at Flow Racing. The Wes Buck Show is brought to you by FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or hardcore drag racing fan, or even if you're just loosely involved in the sport of drag racing, you've got to get on board with Flow Racing. The world leader in sports live streaming, Flow Racing provides unlimited access to the sport of drag racing's biggest events. Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy, Sweet 16, Chris Graves' Funny Car Chaos, the entire PDRA and NMCA seasons, everything in between. I think I mentioned Funny Car Chaos, Jason Miller's World Cup Finals, Mel Ross Streetcar Super Nationals. Every single significant drag race, in my opinion, on the planet Earth is streamed live on flowracing.com. The coolest part, in my opinion, well, I guess other than being able to watch live drag racing 24/7, you can watch on any device, whether you want to watch on your phone, your tablet, you want to watch Roku, Apple, whatever you want to use, you can watch live drag racing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via our partners at flowracing.com. And I want to say this kind of I try to make these sponsorship situations a little bit personal and as authentic of an endorsement as I can provide. Please recognize Flow Racing is doing something significant for the sport of drag racing. This is important. The partnerships that Flow Racing has performed with the promoters that I just mentioned and many others They are difference makers. These are people that are doing their part to grow and build the sport of drag racing, which is a mission that's near and dear my heart. They're putting money in the hands of, in the pockets of promoters. They're putting drag racing and drag racers in front of a worldwide audience. It can only behoove us the success of Flow Racing. I encourage you, please, by all means, join the movement. Be part of the action. Log on to flowracing.com. Join. $150 a year is a small price to pay to not only support the sport of drag racing, put our sport in front of as many people as humanly possible, but really grow and be a part of a movement. They are changing the game out here, and I tip my cap to them, and I really appreciate them being a part of the Wes Buck Show and Drag Illustrated magazine. So our first guest today, in my opinion, is something of a pro mod legend. For about as long as people have been paying attention to pro mod, this North Carolina native has been a part of the conversation. His support for fast door slammer racing has never wavered, and that level of commitment has provided a front row seat to a brand of drag racing that is seemingly ever changing. Ladies and gentlemen, the newly crowned NMCA Extreme Pro Mod World Champion. Let's give it up for Chip King. Woo, Mike,
Woo.
JT, clap, everybody.
There we go. What's up, Chip?
Chip looks good, man. Who set this camera up? You look really good.
You wouldn't believe the amount of duct tape it took to get this all set up. But my wife, thanks to her.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. Thank you for being here, dude. I've told everybody, throughout the beginning of the show that my buddy Chip King's a relatively soft-spoken guy. He doesn't get super revved up, but I am of the opinion that you're an extremely well-spoken racer with a ton of insight and opinion. And I guess it's well established that you just scored your first world championship with the NMCA, an incredible accomplishment. But I'm just curious if you could kind of walk our listeners through and us how you arrived at joining the NMCA Extreme Pro Mod ranks. For what it's worth, you've been a part of almost, I believe, every single NHRA Pro Mod drag race they ever had prior to 2021. You were always there. What pushed you towards the NMCA, Chip?
Well, at the just before the end of the 2020 season, we were testing for the U.S. Nationals and lost our primary NHRA car, and we had a backup, but I had didn't really get injured there, but I had a couple of injuries a couple of weeks later from a dump truck of all things. But I had to get all that fixed, so went through some surgeries and got my spine straightened out and got where I could drive again. And we had purchased the Terry Liggett Mustang, and it was really a good 8th mile car, and we considered making it a 1/4 mile car, and team and I decided let's go for an 8th mile championship and take our time getting a new 1/4 mile car together.
Do you we talked about this earlier in the week, Chip. I believe the NMCA, Steve Walcott, Raleigh Miller, Mike Galemi, that whole crew, in my opinion, I don't know that the NMCA, the National Muscle Car Association, really gets their due. I don't know why that is necessarily, but they are, in my opinion, without question, I think drag racing's number 2 sanctioning body, right? I mean, I think it's well known that the NHRA is the tip of the sword, if you will, but the NMCA, their consistency, their rules, their attention to detail, the way they put on their events, the way they're scheduled, the way they're handled. I mean, you can ask a lot of racers who have dipped their toes into the NMCA waters, that they run a tight ship over there. How impressed have you been, your first full season over there with the operation of the National Muscle Car Association, Chip?
Oh, I'm very highly impressed. I spent, like you mentioned, a career at NHRA, and I still love the NHRA, but NMCA has just really got their act together. They treat the racers with so much respect, and they make sure you really feel like you're wanted there. And they keep the track prep is just Kurt Johnson and his team just keep the track prep the same every single time, and that just gives you such a confidence builder, especially when you're trying to run and stay up front, that you're going to have a pretty much on time sessions, and you're going to know when your sessions are. They keep you well informed, and when you get up there, they're ready to run you, and the track is ready for you. So it's been a great
What do
experience.
you, after all these years of racing? I mean, you talked about some accidents. God knows you've fought the good fight to stay out there at a high level for all these years. Fielded a bunch of different combinations. Always known as a Mopar guy. I know that I'm sure there are some hardcore Chip King fans out there that struggle to sleep at night seeing you in a red Ford Mustang. But when you look at the gamut that you've been through, all that you've accomplished out here, and how long you've been a part of the sport, how much did that championship mean to you, and how excited are you, I'm assuming, in 2022 to go defend your title and wear that number 1 on your windshield?
Oh, I'm very excited. I've got a great team together, and they're so behind everything that I do, and we all talked about it with my sponsors, my family, and my team members, racing team members, and everybody's excited to go back to defend that title, and then we'll fit in the NHRA races where we can.
I'm glad to hear that, because I think the NMCA, it's something that they can be proud of, in my opinion, that one of the stars, a guy who has, oftentimes there's this notion that there's lesser competition in the PDRA, or lesser competition in the Midwest Drag Racing Series, or lesser competition in the NMCA. And I think it's just fantastic that you had to go out there and go toe to toe with all these cats in the Extreme Pro Mod division, fought a really tough battle to end up as world champion. But it's good for the NMCA to have you come back and defend that crown. But I will say that it piques my curiosity that you're talking about doing a little bit of dabbling in the NHRA. I'm aware that you have another car, I believe a late model Camaro. Will we see it just at a handful of big events, I guess, for the NHRA, like maybe the U.S. Nationals, or when they're out in your neck of the woods out on the East Coast in Carolina?
Well, not necessarily. I've never been one that judged where I was going to go by the distance from home. Our first NHRA race this year will probably be Vegas, so that'd be the furthest one from home. But
how cool is it that you're going to make your debut at the race that is the furthest away from home? There are a whole bunch of people in the NHRA world right now jumping up and down, because that's huge news, man. I've actually been concerned, Chip, that that the car count in Vegas could be problematic with, the points kind of being not buttoned up, but it being kind of grouped up there at the top. You wonder, like, man, how many cars are they're going to have? But man, Chip King's coming from freaking North Carolina. That's incredible. Thank you.
Well, I've done that in a past season before I waited around to near about the end of the year to show up. But it's I really like it over there, and I really have missed it. But the older you get, the 8th mile is a lot of fun also.
How much of the safety factor plays into it?
Well, I'm very adamant on the safety side of things as far as how my cars are set up, and I spend a lot of time on remounting seat belts and moving things around and whatnot. So I'm not that concerned with the safety side of the quarter mile to the 8th mile. And actually, it used to be, I felt like I was only halfway there when I got to the 8th mile. It was ridiculous to lift. So, I'm not really that concerned with that. But the parts attrition is probably the biggest factor difference. You definitely use a lot more parts up when you run quarter mile.
What do you make of the rumor that NHRA is considering allowing screw type superchargers into Pro Mod for 2022? Do you think that's a good move?
I personally don't think that's a good move, for the sheer fact we've already got so many power adders, and the screw has definitely been a very dominant power adder in the past, and I'm afraid I'm afraid it would hurt car count to a certain extent, even though there can be the argument that there are more screw cars out there that, would or could show up. But, you have all the safety pieces in place that NHRA require, from the tunnel to the fireproofing front end and the one to net and the plates under seats, just things of that nature that a lot of those guys that run 8th mile may not be willing to make all those updates to show up. So I don't know that it would really help car count. It could possibly hurt it.
Looking through the lens of sitting out from NHRA competition thus far in 2021, what's been your take on this ProCharger situation? I mean, you did dabble in the twin turbo deal for a little while, but you've been a blower sticking through the hood Pro Mod guy for pretty much since day one, right? So what's your take on the Pro Charger thing and how that is all kind of transpired in NHRA competition this year? We saw them with a huge advantage. NHRA's made something like 4 rule changes here this season. What's your stance on that combination?
Well, I think when you were talking about lack of help earlier, I'm not sure, this applies, but I just don't think NHRA had got a really good look at it. I don't know if they didn't have enough help to look at it or just had some false information. Not sure what happened there, but I don't think they really got a good look at it and really studied it. And it's unfortunately has really shown that it's way more of a power advantage than what it was believed to be in the past. And, us blower guys, we've been around, and the nitrous guys, got to give them credit. We've been around for 20 plus years, 22, 23 years, and we've developed. I've spent a ton of money developing engines and combinations and whatnot. And for a combination to come out in the first few years and be so dominant, not that those guys hadn't done their research, but it shouldn't be able to happen that way.
I mean, can you speak to that a little bit, Chip? I'm going to go over we actually have plenty of time. One of the things that has always surprised me a couple of years ago, and forgive me, I can't remember exactly everybody that you introduced me to, but I swung by your pits a couple of years ago. I believe I was begging you to come to Denver, if I remember correctly, but I swung by your pits and you were introducing me to a handful of like some NASCAR guys, because I don't know that people maybe recognize the level of development that's at play, even in NHRA Pro Mod. I think a lot of times when we talk about research and development, fans believe that's kind of exclusive to Funny Car or exclusive to Pro Stock, but there's a lot of guys that have invested heavily in their own engine programs, different cylinder heads, different superchargers. Can you take us through a little bit of the work that you've done to refine your supercharged program in Pro Modified competition?
Oh yeah, I've been in a development agreement with Joe Hornick Enterprises for
that's it.
Oh gosh, probably the last 8 years or so. Actually, I met up, I made contact with him when I was running my turbo cars because of some valve train issues, and we started talking and working together on the Hemi program. He was more of a Pro Stock and NASCAR type development person, but we started talking about the Hemis, and they really hadn't been changed since they were designed in the 60s. They were pretty much, the race Hemis were just a glorified edition, so they had a lot of valve train issues and this and that. And we started talking about fixing that and how we could fix that. And then he did some work for Jim Whiteley, and then, Jason Scruggs, and it has just developed from there. And it's pretty much full time developing parts and pieces for these things. And we're not the only ones. It's, Janice, and, you just go right down the list of guys that have been working and developing.
And that's why it's such a backbreaker when the Pro Charger comes out and sets the national record at the first event of the year, or crushes it as they did in 2020 and 2021. So I certainly respect how hard of a pill that has been, a tough pill to swallow for all these Pro Modified guys that have been, supercharged guys that have been refining this combination for years. We have a great question in the comments here, and you touched on it briefly, but I would love to have you expound on it a little bit. What are some of the cost savings that are associated with going from quarter mile to eighth mile? I mean, there's a lot more wear and tear in that last half of the track. You're obviously turning those things a ton of RPM in NHRA competition, perhaps not so much in outlaw eighth mile racing. Can you compare and contrast? Because we have an incredible following here, and I'm so proud of these guys, but they're hardcore. They want to talk nuts and bolts, dollars and cents. I mean, how much of a savings is it going from quarter mile to eighth mile racing?
Oh gosh. This year we've, if we're quarter mile racing, it's pretty much a engine freshen up after a test session and a race. And, this year we've been able to make test sessions and races with a test session associated with each event. We make it at least 3 races without going into a complete freshen up of an engine. So
over the course of a season, you're talking like it could cut it by a third.
Oh yeah, it's substantially different. It just, it's each combination picks on their own set of parts, but in our combination, it's wear and tear on the pistons and so on. And it's not really the fact of the fuel system or whatever. It's just the geometry and the dynamics of it all. It does take a beating because it's not really accelerating that hard through high gear like it is through the lower gears. So it's kind of lugging more. So it just, that's my opinion of why it's a little harder on the engines. Plus the RPMs, like you said, and it's running for a couple of more seconds at full tilt. So it's definitely going to be a little harder on it. But, we basically run the same engines, 1/8 mile or 1/4 mile. We just don't have to work on them as often.
Which is well received by anybody that's ever gone drag racing, right? I mean, it's one thing just to get there and do all the things that you have to do, let alone to do it while having engine troubles or having to freshen this thing up. Mike, I've kind of cut my boy here, the co-host of the show, completely out of this conversation. Mike, do you got anything that you want to throw at Chip real quick?
I really don't. I promised Chip yesterday when we did our technical test that he wasn't going to get any controversial questions or anything, and we kind of went back on that promise. So I'm glad we talked about the rules. I think that's some great insight from Chip as far as the progression of the Pro Charger combination and the way that came in versus how the turbos were introduced to the class and possibly the way they'll introduce the screw blown combination. So I think that's good insight. We're talking about it every week almost. And so to hear it from someone that's been out there for 20 years and developing these combinations, I think that sort of validates some of the thoughts that we've had about it.
Considering that, 20 multi-decade involvement that you've had in Pro Modified, what's your stance on just where the class kind of sits as a whole? I mean, do you look at this with a little bit of like a proud papa perspective? I mean, obviously you weren't as intimately involved with the NHRA series as you have been historically in 2021, but you've been a big part of this for a long, long time. You've brought sponsors to the table. You guys have sponsored events in the past via DreamWorks there on the wall behind you. I mean, are you proud of where the class has arrived? Because it's NHRA Pro Mod, for all intents and purposes, I believe is the final frontier for fast door slammer drag racing. How much personal pride do you have in where the class has arrived, Chip?
Well, I was talking to some people about it this weekend. A lot of people don't know the history, but I introduced the Hemi into Pro Mod competition, the original Hemi. And, nowadays you hardly see anything but a Hemi. People question my sanity when I brought the Hemi in, but, a Hemi was always a dominant force, kind of like Screwblower has always been a dominant force. So, it was a natural thing that when they allowed Hemi, Indy cylinder heads approached me and said, let's do this. And that's how the Hemi got in there. And then, so yeah, I've been on the ground floor of several things. I was the first guy to really start making my own bodies when I started doing the Charger and the Daytona. So I get to, I feel pretty good about the fact I helped shape a lot of this. And we even laughed at the valve size rule they have for the supercharged Hemi was a late night discussion with Bill Bader in the tower when he wasn't going to allow a billet Hemi head at Rockingham and probably 2001. Like, hey, Bill, don't disallow it. Why? What's the problem? He said, oh, they say you're going to have huge valves. I'm like, simple. Just limit the valve size. And it's been in the rule book ever since. So I do laugh at things and say, I had a lot to do with that.
You really did, Chip. I mean, I honestly think that it's understated, and I apologize for that, to be honest, because I think, our role in the media, I do think you deserve the thing that sticks out to me as having promoted races, and kind of that's been the backbone of my existence for a long time, is your continual support of these events is so significant, right? I mean, you were there at the first ever NHRA national event, Pro Mod exhibition, all the way through to the class becoming considered a professional category. I mean, you've seen it from start to finish, and it's really impressive. And I hope you know that there's a whole lot of us that love this stuff that appreciate that commitment and the countless dollars you've spent. Before we let you go, Chip, and this is a great question here in the comments on YouTube, and I want to thank everybody. We've got a hell of a following on YouTube today. It's making a big difference. I appreciate you guys being a part of the conversation. Keep this stuff coming. Your comments and your involvement is like oxygen to us. JT, I'm actually thinking about the turbo question. Darth Sniper is asking us, as someone who's raced a turbo car in the past, Chip, what do you think could be done to bring that combination back? I think it's something that we're sorely lacking out there. We've got all these combinations. There's like 5-6 different variations of a Pro Mod car you can run in NHRA right now. What needs to happen to get those turbo cars back into the mix?
Well, I think and again, this is an opinion, and I'm gonna probably get slaughtered for this.
That's what we're here for, brother. That's what we're here for.
That's that's okay. I think that they had some a little bit of tomfoolery going on when they kept lowering the boost limits, but the cars kept running just as fast until maybe it was discovered there were certain ways to make hoses leak and fittings leak and things of that nature. So by the point they got the boost limit so low with this, once that was found out, it was really no way they could run. And this is my opinion again. So now they're going to have to go back and give them some boost back and some things like that, because just from the outside looking in, those things caused the limits to go so low they really couldn't run without having leaks and things that created an ability to put a little more boost in there. So I think they're going to have to give them some stuff back. Because
is there an argument to be made for putting a smaller turbo on them, Chip? The NHRA standardized Pro Mod is an 88 millimeter turbo, I believe, which will make tons of boost. The NHRA has them limited down to the low 30s, I think 31 or 33 pounds of boost, something crazy. Is there an argument to be made, you think, for putting a smaller turbo on the cars that are kind of more at their peak boost levels without an electronic boost controller?
I think there could be some possibilities there, and the same way with the Pro Charger. It's a smaller one could definitely, it's like a restrictor plate, and lack of other words. But a lot of times though, the bigger one isn't real happy when you start choking it down like that. So they may run faster with small ones. That's the risk. That's the risk in doing that. That's and
efficiency plays a role in it, right?
That's to your point though. That's kind of what we're looking for, right? We're looking to give them something back to bring them up to where the other combinations are. So I think that would be the way to go.
Same deal with when we went from 20 over to 16 and 14. Everyone's, oh God, they're never running that. Well, guess what? They've run faster because
and it's interesting. To that point, I remember trying to, when I was in the midst of promoting the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, our 3-year stint out at Bandamere Speedway with the biggest Pro Mod drag race in the history of the known universe. Something I'm super proud of, but one of the things that my argument to any blower racer was me just trying to I'm a salesman, man. That's what I do. So I roll into someone's pit and they're like, oh, we can't run out there. And I'm like, no, spin that thing 20 over. We're going to give you overdrive. And they're like, it doesn't run any better at 20 over. It runs worse, generates more heat. It doesn't help us, Wes. Like, I appreciate your effort to, but that ain't enough. And it was kind of realizing that, because I do think for the, maybe the uninitiated, you go, hey, spin the blower faster, it's going to run better. They've spent so much time, the Al Billises of the world, the Mike Janices of the world, the Chuck Fords of the world, and the list goes on, have spent so much time perfecting that thing, right, at 16 over or 14 and a half over or whatever, that speeding it up doesn't help. So it's a really interesting thing, and I hadn't completely thought about that, because that would be our luck, right? That we put 72 millimeter turbos on these Pro Mods and they go out and run 550s. Yeah,
that's the risk. But I think they got to give them something back if they want them to come back and race, and they need the turbo cars, they do, and they need the blower cars. They need the nitrous cars. I'm not sure they need the Pro Charger cars, but that's just an opinion.
Oh, that was great, man. A little bit of real Chip showed up, man. Thank you for that. And Chip, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. We appreciate you. The floor is yours, brother. I know you got some, I was going to get you to tell me this story about your wife. We have 2 things that Chip deserves to get to tell us. I know you've got a bunch of sponsors that support your program, but we also got to talk about that red Mustang. Is that thing up for sale, or what's going to happen to are we going to get you back in a Mopar full time, or what?
Well, we do have a new 70 Charger being built at Jerry Haas race cars right now. The Jerry Bickle 70 Mustang is a proven winner, and a few people approached me about buying it, and my wife said, "Are you a flipping idiot? That car is winning races. What? You've lost your damn mind." And so, like, okay, that one's off the table. But you know, there's we're very happy with that car, and it works very well. It's worked very well over the years. And you know, Terry Coyle, my tuner, he's very acclimated with that car because obviously he tuned it for Terry Liggett. And you know, that was kind of part of my reason for buying that car from Liggett was I had Coyle helping me, and I said, you know, Liggett decides to go back racing. He's got a car. He's liable to go and take Coyle with him. So I said, fix that. Let's buy the car. So that's, you know, that was part of my motivation. The rest is it's a really good car. So that being said, Justin Carmack has come in and taken over and kind of managing the team now. So I have more time to do what I do at work and more time to enjoy racing. And that's made a big difference in the organization. He's done a great job and putting the right people and the right things together.
Well, that's what we're looking for, Chip, man. We want Chip King having a damn good time going drag racing. I tell you what, buddy, you keep doing burnouts, winning world championships, and we'll keep telling the world about it. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Wednesday afternoon to talk with us and everybody else watching along on the internet. We appreciate you, brother.
Hey, I've got a 18-year-old daughter that's supposedly watching from class in Costa Rica right now. So she said if I didn't give her a shout out, I'd have to pay the price. So
you have to give her a shout out.
Hi, Bella.
Hi, Bella. Mike, we're all giving you a shout out.
Hey, Bella.
So
we're all giving you a shout out.
Hopefully my son's listening and my sponsors, DreamWorks. And I really appreciate my family, my whole team, all the guys that sacrificing their families to make us be able to do this because they really won the championship this year. They had a mediocre driver at times that happened to let his finger slip off the button at the right time a few times to win in the right situations and a few times at the wrong time. But at the end of the day, we got a championship wrapped up out of it. So everybody did a great job. I'm just going to mention them all real quick. Then I know you guys got to go. But Terry Cole, Travis Eubanks, Robbie Matthews, Eli Moore, Al Day, the truck driver, and then obviously all our part suppliers we've mentioned previously. So thanks so much to them. And a special thanks to Justin Carmack for putting so much effort into making this all come together.
Much deserved, brother, man. It's a family affair, a team deal, dude. We recognize that, and I'm glad you took the time to honor those dudes because Mike and I both kind of come from we can speak from the perspective of a crew guy, the dude that's putting out the awning or putting, on top of the trailer in the 200-degree sun, and those are guys that normally don't get their due. So thank you for recognizing those folks.
We didn't run as well as we wanted to at Indy, and I told them all, I said, y'all know you're my crew for life, but if we don't run better next run, I'm going to start picking one at a time to kill. So let's go.
Oh, that's some North Carolina showing up.
Yeah. Actually, I stole that from Roy Hill.
That makes sense now.
You know what? We get Roy Hill feeling better. He's got to. We got to talk to Roy Hill on here one of these.
Got to give Roy a shout out.
Yeah, I talked to him on Sunday, and he was elated. I said, Roy, one more of your students has won a world championship.
Wow.
Good deal. Hope he's on the mend.
Did he sound like he was on the mend, Chip?
Oh, yeah. He's
good.
Very excited. He's ready to get well and get back out. Yeah, he sounded very good.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to seeing him, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon, brother. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
See you later, Bella.
Take care, Chip.
Talk to you guys. Hopefully she'll watch the whole show.
Okay.
Man, I tell you what, Mike, this is badass that we get to do
Chip,
this stuff.
He's an underrated guy, man. He's been involved in a bunch of stuff, and the stuff he was talking about, I kind of remember those days from the nitrous side of it, and when these things got introduced to the supercharged car. So we've got Chip to blame for that. Actually, I think we pinned it on a lot of other guys.
I remember
we've got Chip to blame for some of this stuff.
We were young, bro, when the Hemi was introduced, but I remember like all the blower guys were running wedge-headed stuff, and then the Hemi guy, and it was like fighting. It was like a feisty situation over there in the.
Then they got the billet head and the high helix blower, and one thing after another, and kind of
pissed off all you nitrous guys.
Got us really, really pissed off, and But look at the parity now. Look at the parity between the nitrous cars and the blower cars now.
It is pretty crazy, man. And I'm glad that the NHRA's like tightened this thing up because I felt going into Indy, I thought we're at a real pivotal moment for this class. If something's not done soon, we're going to lose we're going to lose it, right? You start to lose the locker room, your phrase, your go-to phrase. You start to lose the belief of these people. They start to think that you don't care or that you don't have their best interest at mind. And I thought, man, 2022 is going to be rough if we don't get this thing turned around. And hopefully they've got it done. I do think we've still got some work to do to get NHRA Pro Mod at least back to where I believe it deserves, like on the drag racing, in the drag racing ecosystem, if you will. But I tell you what, we got a whole lot of drag racing to talk about here today. I do want to remind everybody, check out there on the bottom right hand of the screen, and remember that each and every episode of this show right here on the Drag Illustrated Facebook and YouTube channel is brought to you by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing products, racing safety equipment from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits, gloves, window nets, blankets, all 100% made in America. A big deal to all of us here at DI. And I tell you what, log on to stroudsafety.com. Make sure you tell Tommy and the gang that we sent you. We surely appreciate their support. Mike, I guess we got to kind of move on down the list here. I got to find my notes. I'm kind of a disaster with my notes today, but I'm not sure about the rest of you guys, but these drag and drive events, it seems like there's another one every time I turn around. Every time I get on the old Facebook or on the World Wide Web, I'm introduced to another huge drag and drive event. And last week, we were blessed, in my opinion, to get to chat with Dave Schroeder, who scored the win in unlimited competition at Hot Rod Drag Week. I really felt great about using our platform to shine a light on Hot Rod Drag Week. There's a ton of incredible racers over there that oftentimes, obviously, they have a huge following with Hot Rod Magazine, and they get all sorts of accolades. But I just wanted to be a part of that and do our part to make sure that all these, I think, drag and drive competitors, the people that participate in these events, are the epitome of car people. They are like this. They're what our sport is built on the back of. Do-it-yourselfers, people with grease under their fingernails, dirty hands, hurting backs. These are the people that comprise our sport, and I think have carried our sport to where it is today. So I'm super excited to have our next guest here, fresh off a huge win in unlimited competition as well on Rocky Mountain Race Week. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for, I believe, the most followed young lady in drag racing. I really believe that's the case. Alex Taylor, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
Well, you're driving down the road, I think, right?
Well, I stopped. I pulled over. I'm in a parking lot right now, but yeah, I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Alex. You're actually my co-host on Burnout, our short-lived, unfortunately season-long show on Speed TV.
Now you got me. Major downgrade, dude.
A little bit of a downgrade. Sorry, Mike.
Guys.
Yeah, it's. We need to weave you into this deal, Alex, and have you on here more frequently. I was stunned. You were really fresh to your like being on TV days whenever you joined the Burnout show, and I remember telling James Lawrence and like everybody involved on the back end of that deal, like, Alex is a superstar. Like we need to shine a light on her. She's great in this role. So, and you have really embraced it, Alex. I mean, I was just like trying to find your email address the other day because you took 2 hours to respond to my text. And I was digging around on the internet, and I'm like, this chick's got 150,000 followers on Instagram. She got this huge following on Facebook. She got a huge following on YouTube. You're like on your way to an appearance, right?
I'm trying to do something. So I don't know what exactly the end goal is yet, but definitely after we did the show with you guys, that was, you and Mike were a lot to compare to. That was you guys had a lot of words, and I was a lot less words compared to your amount of words, but that was definitely thrown into the fire. But there's a lot changed since even last year at that time.
You do a great job. I mean, we talk a little bit. I mean, I want to talk about, and I have all these questions written down, but I'm going to basically go off the rails like I always do. What is, for someone like you, one of the questions we've been asking a lot of racers in the last several weeks, I think about people like Dallas Glenn, NHRA Pro Stock Rookie of the Year contender. We go to Dallas Glenn and we ask him a question like, hey man, what's next? Is there a level beyond this that you want to get to, or what's important to you? And he basically told us like, man, Pro Stock's where I want to be. This is what I set out to accomplish. And this is end of the road kind of sounds negative, but this is the final destination for someone like Dallas Glenn. We heard a little bit of that as well from Kyle Koretsky a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious, with as big of a following as these drag and drive events have, Drag Week, Rocky Mountain Race Week, and there's a host of others, do you have aspirations beyond this, Alex, or is this where you want to be?
I am nowhere close to where I want to be. To know exactly where that end goal is yet, I don't have that answer. But I was actually just talking to my friend Ryan White from Holly yesterday as we get ready to prepare for next season. He's like, what is your ultimate goal? I was like, I don't have that answer because I have got to really focus on being a quote unquote driver more this year. And I say that in that term because previously I've had my Camaro and it was just me and my mom. And so I was doing everything from tuning to the maintenance to just getting it through the week, and driving actually came at the very end of that list. And I hated that, knew I needed to working on those skills. And with the 55, it's been totally different. Like my dad and I are teammates now. And so he handles a lot of the mechanic side, and it's allowed me to focus a lot on tuning, in conjunction with Ryan, as well as actually focusing on driving. And so that's a role that I'm really, really enjoying. And I have a long ways to go with it. And I don't know where my ultimate goal as far as driving is, but just as far as in the industry in general, I feel like I'm just getting started and working on developing, a path on that route, but I don't know the end goal yet. And I don't want to get hung up on one thing just specifically. I've always said, I'm like, I just love this industry. I love the people in it. I just love it as a whole. And so be it with camera work, driving, part of a team, any of those aspects, I just know this is where I want to be. And so finding my place and role in that is something I'm developing as I go along with it.
Whenever you this past week, you clicked off like a slew of career bests, right? I mean, I think headed into this week, like 7-second runs were like on the bulletin board. Like that's something that we want to accomplish. Right. Yeah. And now you're knocking them off left and right. What was that? Like, that was a really rapid, I don't even know that escalation is really the word. It is meant to like an evolution. You went from kind of green, a green, fast, door slammer driver to someone who's doing this one day after the next and then driving to the car to the next track. I mean, what's more important to you personally right now, like with looking at, hindsight, the lens of this accomplishment? Was it winning Rocky Mountain Race Week, or was it all those personal bests one day after another?
I think it was that developed, like what would be the goal developed, or, the hindsight look back is it would have changed beginning to end. So right before we finished the car in June, but I didn't even get to touch it for, months after, because we went and did a new project with Dodge, working with the Challenger, Dodge and Motor Trend. So anyway, so we didn't get to touch the 55. So I didn't actually get to drive the 55 again until the week before we left for drag week. And we went to a test session in Memphis, and the car was brand new. I had no, real experience with what the car felt like. I had never actually driven a big tire car either. So that was also totally new to me. There was a lot of newness. I didn't even have a baseline on what that car should feel like. And looking back now, I was like, we're going into 2 major events without a baseline. And so we went to test, and I can't tell you how many like 60-foot passes we made, and then like working up to like 330 and things like that, then getting to the 8th mile before I even felt comfortable with the car. I think the 2 passes that I made on Race Week 1.0 in June was, I did it out of adrenaline and didn't have time to think, kind of thing. Because when we went testing, there was just like, I was like, this car, is this right? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Or is this when something feels like it's going wrong? Because I would come back and they'd be like, why'd you lift? I'm like, because it felt like it was going to the wall. They're like, that's normal. I was like, that doesn't feel normal. And so anyways, what became like a big accomplishment was getting more and more comfortable with the car. We made adjustments before race week 2.0 or drag week, I guess. We put a wing on the car, totally calmed it down. It was a lot, but it's a handful. So for me, like, I think my biggest personal accomplishment is the progression that I felt with the car. Like, I legitimately felt my driving skills progress over that period. And so the times that we ran and the win was a result of that. And that's, so I think it's the driving skill, like feeling that change over those 2 weeks. And then the times were sweet. Like when we went and did testing, I was like, I have to run a 7 before this is all said and done, So I was like ecstatic to break into the 7s. And I broke into it with a 775, my first like real quarter-mile pass right before we ended testing. And it was crazy that after that, like anything slower, I was like, man, this stinks. Like yesterday I was excited about a 7, and today I want to see like a 760 something, 750 something. So there was a lot of quick progression, and
your drag racer is awesome, showing.
But
yeah, your drag racer is showing. Yeah.
And so, I think it was just seeing myself progress. Like that's the part that was really special to me.
Whenever you ran your orange Camaro, Alex, and I guess I
Mhm.
should probably know this, but I'm going to give Nate and Josh a hard time for not telling me. You ran that car like on a 275 radial or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know that everybody totally recognizes how different it is driving a car that's on one of those super stiff sidewall drag radials versus a slick tire, a big slick tire with 5 pounds of air in the tires or whatever. Can you tell us about like the first time you think you felt that thing sashay a little bit?
Huge difference. So that happened during testing, and like I said, first couple passes I lifted, even at the 330, like it felt to me like it didn't feel like it was going straight, and I'd come back, and we ended up adding, pulling power back and trying to adjust and get my skill set to the point that I felt comfortable with it before we turned it back up. But on my first quarter mile pass during testing, that's when I first felt it, and you can see it in the video, like it jumped to the left on me, and you look at the in-car, everybody's like, that car was pretty straight, and I was like, no, it wasn't. Like it might have looked straight, but I was not driving straight. So we actually looked at the in-car video, and I've got one of the steering wheels, like a lot of dry racing steering wheels with stripe in the center, and you can see the in-car footage. The steering wheel is very, very far turned to the left, and that's the point where I realized, like, this car is gonna be a handful. It's totally different. Like there's a lot of driving, cars not just gonna go straight, and I like that. Like I enjoy the challenge that it's presenting, but that's when I totally, like, that's the point that hit me when I saw that video. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a lot. And there's some stuff we've done to like improve that a little bit, but still at that, it's still something new to me. And I've only got probably 15 passes on the car, like full quarter mile passes. And so there's still a lot to learn. I know there's a lot to learn with it.
And like, I don't know a ton about the combination, and maybe you could break that down for us. I know there's a lot of like hardcore Alex Taylor fans and hardcore like Drag Week and Rocky Mountain Race Week fans that are watching along. But I mean, this is a big power deal, right? I mean, what is the drivetrain? What's under the hood of that 55 Chevy?
It's actually probably a little bit of a smaller combination than you would expect for what we're trying to do. It's, first of all, starting with chassis, it's full tube chassis, 25, whatever, 3. It's a 650 cert. Yeah, I always get those backwards, but 650 cert chassis. And we actually just built it in like 4 months. So I didn't have time to build a new motor and transmission. So I pulled the combination of Dad and I did, and then we borrowed out of his Nova for the season. So it's a 509 big block Chevy. It's pretty low compression motor. It's like 8-to-1, super low compression actually on methanol. And so I don't know if I told you a horsepower number, it'd be like a guess, but in the ballpark of 2,500 on this event is what we were seeing. Twin Pro Mod 88 turbos. With a turbo 400 and a 4-link suspension, but that's going to change this year. I'm working this off season to build a new motor for it, so the combination will change. It's a little bit small for what we're trying to do, but it got us by for the season.
Well, and if you think about some of the combinations that you see from these other cats, right? I mean, the Tom Baileys of the world, and where the bar was set by Larry Larson and Jeff Lutz, and even Dave Schroeder out here with an 870 some cubic inch nitrous engine. I mean, it's really spiraled out of control quickly. Tell us a little bit about just the experience of, I'm a second generation racer, a third generation car guy, technically. What's this been like doing it with your dad, man? Following along on social media and seeing all these pictures of you and your pops. I admit that, we're not like super close. I don't know you really well, but like it's a heartwarming thing to watch unfold in front of all of us. And I have to imagine that he is a proud son of a gun, because I mean, you're getting cars delivered from Dodge for you to cut into a billion pieces. I mean, this is a really incredible thing, Alex. What's it been like to do it with your dad?
Oh, it's been so much fun. It's interesting because I've been in the shop with my dad since I was just a couple weeks old. He builds cars. That's what he does. He started with street rods and, more that side. And over the past probably 5, 6, 7 years has progressed towards a more performance oriented builds. So anyways, I've been in the shop with him, that entire time, and we've built stuff together before. I have my 68 Camaro, me and him built it, but I had been in college until just last May. And so my time at the shop was limited. I was there on all my free time, but it wasn't like I was there, all day, every day kind of thing. And so after I graduated college and had this time, we kind of had like a little bit of a downtime, we'd race a little, but then once we started this project, it was like totally different. Like, it totally changed like our dynamic and our relationship, because not only then was it like a father-daughter, it's also like legitimately a business partner. So he handles one side of it. You know, he's just a mastermind when it comes to building. He always has an answer, always has an idea. And then like, I love the business side of it and handling like the relation side of it and doing that. And I like, you know, the other side as well. It's just that we both have our roles that we're better at. And so we were able to do this project because we were able to take it on in that sense. And so it totally changed like how we work together and how we approach things. And that was just, it was so neat. It was the first project that me and him 100% collaborated on together from the beginning, like beginning to end. And so that made it super fun. And that's kind of given us a direction on like where we're going to go from here, as far as like, we've got different projects and different ideas, and we just see a lot of potential on stuff that we want to do going forward. So it's really cool because it's somebody that I know I can trust and somebody that knows how I work, and we're so much alike. It's scary. It makes us butt heads sometimes. So, you know, but at the same time, it's like awesome to be working with somebody that's on the same page as you.
Well, and a lot of times, man, I as a business owner myself, and I mean, I think a lot of people will attest to it. Everybody has what they're good at, right? And especially a lot of, in our industry, it feels like the racing community is full of these guys that are like super talented fabricators or super, like very good at what they do, but they don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to talk to people. They don't want to deal with companies. They don't want to set things up. They're not going to build a website. They're not going to do all those things. So it's like really kind of an interesting thing. What did you end up going to college to do, Alex?
I went for marketing, but I never had the intention of actually working for somebody else. Like, my goal was always, not that I'm, opposed to it, but my goal was always, if I could do it, was to market myself and my brand. And so that's what I worked really hard to set up. I went to college on full scholarship, academic scholarship. So I, was able to graduate without debt. I had my cars paid off and everything by the time I graduated. And so when I graduated, I told myself, I was like, I give myself 1 year, like one full year where I'm just going head first. And if I can make this work, I'm going to do it. Like, this is where I want to be. And if not, like, then I'll visit like law school or something, like I'll go that route. But I'm not, this is where I want to be. And I'm thankful for the opportunities I've had that's allowed me to just like keep going with it. But yeah, it was marketing, but everybody always thought it was for something else. And I'm like, no, it's for Alex Taylor Racing. And that's my goal with it. So.
I think it's fantastic. And I think it's a fantastic story for, like, I hope there are young people watching and listening that, it's one thing. A lot of people, I think, go to college with this notion of, hey, I'm going to use this degree that I get to go get a job. But there's a completely other side to that, where you can go gain this experience and gain this knowledge and then put it to use for yourself. I mean, you don't hear that from a lot of young people in this day and age. I mean, I think kind of the college song is dance, like, hey, you come here and we're going to you're going to get this degree and we're going to help you get a job at XYZ corporation, and you're going to have a 401k and all this stuff. And I just think it's cool because there is a belief system that, like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you don't need college, right? Or you kind of got to pick one. But I think it's wise because that college experience, like for me, I flunked out of college in 2 weeks. So I'm not a good example of it. But I mean, I do think it's good for people to be reminded that you can go to college and you can do that, take that traditional path, but put that experience and education to use for yourself. When you look at this whole thing, Alex, how far it's come, we talked earlier in our conversation about this following that you've amassed on social media. You've, in my opinion, you're a certifiable drag racing car culture influencer. I mean, it's a really cool thing to have seen happen rather quickly. What do you make of these relationships that you have participating in shows on Motor Trend, right? This project with Dodge and Mopar, where they gave you a car to cut into pieces and then you raced it. I mean, what do you make? You obviously have a relationship with Holly, an iconic legacy brand in our industry. I mean, are you pinching yourself or how are you handling all of this?
Oh man, it's wild. So a lot of people see the progression as like a very short timeline, and relatively it is. But I look back, and when I was 16, I started like with Drag Week, and me and my parents built my first car then. And so going from then to now, I have to like stop every once in a while and tell myself like, slow down, because I am so like type A personality. Like I have to be doing something constantly. Like downtime scares me to death. And so I constantly think I'm not doing enough. But I have to check myself every, couple months, or at least every couple months, and be like, look at where you were a couple months ago, look at the following last year to this year, or look at these relationships and, these friends here, these companies here that you've grown, some kind of connection to. Like I have to put myself in a reality check, and it's not because I'm not grateful for that. It's just because like I get so caught up in progressing, trying to continue progressing forward, that I sometimes forget to look back at, how far it's changed. I'm thankful for a lot of the people that I've worked with. They've become friends. A lot of these people are not just a business partner, so I also have to remind myself, like, okay, I do get to work with them, but they're not just friends. Like they are, a business partner that's trusting me to represent their name. And so that's just something that's really neat. And it's really interesting, especially this year, how one connection has led to another. Like I had the chance to go shoot Hoopty World Championship with Motor Trend. And then that connection turned into the connection where I got to cut up a brand new Challenger in partnership with Motor Trend and Dodge. And so it's just, that's just an example of one thing that snowballs to the other. But it's like, even that connection with Motor Trend started probably because I was doing drag week at 16 and continued to do it, over that course of years. So it's fun to see how the connections connect together, basically. But I don't know. It's fun.
I mean, I'll tell you from even this perspective, man, our vantage point here at Drag Illustrated and the show, it's like, it's been great to see this steady climb that you've had. And it's been fun because we take pride in, like, we kind of put our stamp of approval on certain people. Our Drag Illustrated 30 under 30, our Women of Power. You've been a part of both of those deals, both of those functions that we're very proud of.
Yeah.
And when we see you continuing to climb, we all feel a little bit of a proud papa moment. Do you have any, like, before I let you go, a couple of things is, first and foremost, just looking forward at the rest of 2021 with these big drag and drive events kind of behind you. Is there anything, on the horizon for you remaining in 2021? What's up your sleeve? And then I wanted to kind of this is a totally separate question, but I'm willing to let you go on it a little bit. Do you have any advice? I mean, we have a lot of young people that watch this show. It seems like one of the most common questions I get is, how do I get a sponsor, or how do I do this? Or I'm just curious, like, what's your take on that? And do you have any advice for young folks that are trying to make it?
Yeah, so I got a big take on that. For your 2021 question, I don't have any events personally planned as far as racing goes, but this week I get to learn to drift from Chelsea tomorrow with Holly at Ford Fest. And so that's really exciting. So super excited about that, because I've never done anything like that. I just love to take on any, like, that's so far from drag racing, but I love to take on any form of motorsports that I can, just to have some experience there. So that's exciting. But then the next week I'll also be going with Iski to No Prep Kings in Tulsa. So those two are on the schedule, and those two literally just popped up last week. So I don't know what the rest of 2021 will hold. There's something new every day, but excited for those two events. And then of course we'll have the 55 at SEMA. As long as everything's good to go there. And then we'll be at PRI as well. So that's kind of the schedule for this year. But the second question, for anybody that's wanting to get involved, just try to make it quick, but quick story on that is, that question I do see comes up a lot. Like, how do you be a quote unquote influencer? And that's such a term that I love and hate at the same time, but how do you do that? And how do you get a sponsor? And my first thing is just always tell people, like, start somewhere, but don't, like, for me, I'm a bad influencer because I love this industry more so than I do loving creating content. It's just that I do that because it allows me to continue drag racing and building and doing those projects that are passion projects. And I get to share that with others. So like what I love doing is inspiring other people just to start, just to go somewhere, like pick up something. If you love to make videos, or you love to take pictures of cars at the drag strip, start there. If you want to drive, just start anywhere. Take your car to your local test and tune and start. You got to figure out what you love, and that's going to change as like you continue to, move along with what you're doing. So you don't start with that's so backwards, but I always say, like, don't start with a dead set end goal in mind. Like, have a dream and have a big picture, but like be willing to pivot along the way and like pick up different opportunities here and there. And like the other thing is like that sponsor question, like how do I get a sponsor? It's like that's the wrong thing to ask. I feel like it's always like, what can I provide? Like, why am I valuable to someone else versus somebody that's sitting beside me? And so that's something that people taught me early on, was like, you know, you got to show somebody why what you have is different from the other person. And so I think it's like, before you start going to these companies and like asking for things, you have to have something to give back to them. Like, it is a business and they are a business. And so that's what I always try to remind people, like, find what you love and find why you love doing it and how you want to do it, and then go from there, like work forward with that. So it's always kind of a backwards answer, because everybody's like, have a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Like, tomorrow could change, you know? So
no, I mean, I think those are some sage advice from a very young lady, Alex. It's you're wise beyond your years. And that's, you know, that's the conversation we have with racers all the time, is it's like, well, hey, do you really want to sponsor? Like, do you understand what comes along with this? Because it's not all easy. It's not just opening boxes, right, and cashing checks. It's a much different thing. And before I let you go, last thing, what has it been like thrusting yourself into the public light like this? Because that's something that I think is kind of the other shoe that drops. I mean, our next guest, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I mean, Pat Musi, Lizzie Musi have become household names in drag racing. Pat has been for a long time, but it's a new experience to open yourself up to criticism and hearing what people have to say. And everybody has an opinion in this day and age, and everybody has a platform to share that opinion. For a young woman, and as the father of a 7-year-old daughter, I mean, I worry about sending my little girl out into the world, right? And I'm just curious, how have you handled that, and what's that experience been like?
It's been one of those things, like, I've been somewhat in public eye since I was 16, first started racing, but not to the extent I am now. And when I really started with YouTube, that's where I really saw, you know, a different side of people. I learn about people every single day. You know, you learn by their reactions and their comments. It is a little scary at first. And I do have days still where I'll get a comment and I'm like, that person was really mean and that really hurt my feelings. And I'm not a sensitive person. I'm really not. But sometimes, like, that comment hits you just right, where it's like you start to question yourself. But that goes back to the checking reality. And it's like, okay, I have 10 people over here that love what I just did and posted. And then I've got one person who thinks I should have posted it 10 minutes sooner. Like, that happens all the time. People are like, you just, you know, that's such a simple thing. They're like, you just fell off the face of the earth and left us hanging. And it's like, well, I've got a life. Like, I got a lot to do, you know? So you have people that have, you know, problems with everything. Everything you do, somebody will have a problem with. And so I just try to remind myself that they're probably having a bad day and that I've got to look at it in a different light. And it really doesn't matter. You know, it's easy for them to type that comment. But it is hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's something that I have to work on constantly. And sometimes I just turn my comments off, and I feel bad because, like, I don't answer the good ones sometimes, but it's because I don't want to see the negative. Like, some days I'm just like, I can't handle it right now. Gotta mute it and keep going and keep working towards goals and just accept it and keep rolling with it.
Well, Alex, I got to tell you, all of us here at Drag Illustrated in the show, we couldn't be more proud of you. We couldn't be happier for you. It's a magic thing when there's a marrying of intangible skills like that. You have your personality and charisma and your ability to speak, but you're also able to deliver the goods on the racetrack. So congratulations. We're excited to see what happens next. I hope our paths cross sometime in 2021, if not at SEMA or PRI, maybe at one of these drag races coming up. Send our best to your family. Congratulations again. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was good talking.
Thanks, Alex. Drive safe.
Bye.
Bye. I tell you what, I remember I used to, my skin, to be honest, used to be a little thinner. And I will admit, I'm the opposite. I'm super sensitive. I wear my heart on my shirt sleeve, and my dad used to give me a hard time about it every single day. I would see a post on Yellow Bullet and I would just reply, "What's your address?" Because I wanted to go fight. It's like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to type anything. Just tell me where you're at and we will meet there. And so I give a young woman like that a ton of credit for being willing to open herself up to this world we live in, man. Everybody's got something to say, and I can attest to that. It's an incredible thing, and it's, man, killing it. I don't know that she could have done a better job on that whole interview. Holy crap, man. Right? I mean, were you surprised by that, Mike?
I was just sitting back
that.
here stunned the whole time. I've not had a lot of interaction with her either, like you said, but after hearing her and seeing her, there's just no wonder why she's successful. And you asked the question about where do you go from here? Are you at the level you want to be? I think she can go anywhere she wants to in the sport. I think you're looking at a future superstar. She's already hugely popular, huge following. She's on so many different platforms and doing so much different stuff. So sky's the limit for her. It's very similar to our next guest with Pat and with Lizzie, the father-daughter relationship, which is it's much more common today, I think, in drag racing. It used to always be father-son. Now you see a ton of father-daughter combos, and we've got another one coming on. And if you want to get thicker skin, all you got to do is hang around Pat Musi for a little bit.
But Pat actually introduced me to thick skin.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Pat that helped me. He threatened to whip my ass on like a half dozen different occasions.
Yeah,
it really toughened me up. I appreciate it a lot.
Pat should start like the Thick Skin Academy or something like that.
You know what? He could probably sell an online course.
Yeah.
On how to get thicker skin, stand up to criticism. No, Pat, I tell you what, man, our next guest, Mike, a longtime friend of Drag Illustrated. He's somebody who has supported us endlessly, really since this project started. I remember him having me over to him and Liz's house in Carteret, New Jersey, 100 years ago. I'll never forget texting my dad saying that, like, I'm at dinner at Pat Musi's house right now.
Well,
I remember it like it was yesterday, dude.
Well, now he's moved to North Carolina. And now
I know.
Me and my kids go and borrow his pool. I think Pat would have to admit that we've probably used his pool more than he ever has. So thanks for that, Pat. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's an incredible thing, man. And I really do. I believe our next guest honestly needs no introduction. This is a pro stock veteran, a pro stock pioneer turned pro street icon who parlayed that success into an incredible career in pro modified drag racing. He's been all around the world, tuning cars, building engines, racing cars, everything in between. And it has culminated here in 2021 as he serves, I believe we can call him crew chief of his daughter Lizzie Musi's feared Camaro in No Prep Kings competition. He's somebody that I'm so excited is on television again because drag racing benefits from Pat Musi being in front of a camera. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Pat Musi, the Popeye himself, probably my favorite interview of all time. Let's give him a round of applause. What's up, Pat?
Hey,
Is
Pat.
he here? There he is.
Where's the music? We need the music.
Oh, yeah. Hold on real quick. Wait, real quick. Ready? Hold on. People's Court, baby. People's Court. We queued this sound effect up so we'd have it ready for you, Pat. I hope you don't beat the holy crap out of anybody here on the show today. What's going on, man? Where are you currently? Are you at GibTech? You're out in where are you in Denver?
I'm in Denver, and I want to give a shout out. V Gaines, I haven't seen him personally, face to face in a couple of years because of the COVID thing. And he just showed up out right before we started this deal. But this is GibTech, Winberg, GRP. I'm in a little cubicle here, but they were nice enough. We kind of used up a motor against Ryan and had to kind of get that one squared away. So they opened doors and gave me the whole shop, and we got the motor done. We're loaded. So we're ready to roll. 5 more left, and we're on it. But the answer to your question about the Thick Skin Club, we have it. It's called Pat Musi Boot Camp. So if you make it through a year of boot camp working for me, which Elliot has, when it gets,
we need to get a badge made.
Yeah.
We need to get a badge made, or there needs to be like a temporary tattoo or something.
Yeah, is there a shirt? I want the shirt.
Yeah, Mike's kind of made it through.
Oh, Pat, man, I tell you, I don't know that people are fully aware. I mean, the last time we were talking a few weeks ago, Lizzie had an unfortunate incident at Darlington, got her brand new Robert Hayes built Camaro into the wall there, tore it up pretty good. Fortunately, Lizzie was okay. Scary moment for the Musi family, but I would love for you to kind of let people know just all that has gone on in a relatively short amount of time? Because I know it's been, people flying around left and right trying to get Bonnie, this car that Lizzie is quickly making famous, back in competition. So can you take us through a little bit of the process from Darlington to the winner's circle at Tucson Dragway?
Sure. It started out, one of the hard components was the front end, and I called Tori at Glassstack, who's a good supporter of ours. I told Tori I need a front end. He said, well, we're 14 weeks out. I said, I ain't going to get it. He said, well, let me see what I can do. And I'm thinking most we got is maybe 10 days. Calls me back. He's, can you be here Thursday? And I believe that was like on a Monday. We went and got it. And that was a key component. And then Robert Hayes never come up for air. I mean, he just burned the oil in 45 days. I was on the phone making sure he was never missing a part. It takes a lot. It takes a team, and I'm relentless, that. So I'm going to make sure we got everything covered, anything that can go wrong covered. We didn't have time to test, so we had that in the back of our head. Lizzie had driven. We put her right back in the old car, so she was kind of shook off the wreck deal, which is good for a driver. But, it's back in the same car, and we just come up with a combination. The whole crew worked on it. Just everybody, my guys, Elliot, all the guys at the shop, and then Kai Kelly's crew guy, Adam. I always struggle with his last name, Desajek, I think. And anyway, Adam West, we call him. He jumped in with Robert, and they kind of took over. They said, listen, worry about the motor. We got the back. And they got it. We come up with a good combination, and the thing's running. But a little note to make is that car was fast at Darlington. It was just one of them perfect storms. Lizzie was racing somebody as a driver, understand that. Looked over, he wasn't there. So she stood in it too long. She told me, Dad, I stayed in it too long. Lizzie, I get it. I'm a driver. We're not qualifying. I'd be mad. She'd be mad. We were racing, so it's going to happen. I get it. But we all bounced back as a team. I think 45 days from Darlington to the winner's circle is what we counted as pretty phenomenal, I think.
It's more than phenomenal. I mean, I think it's almost unbelievable, Pat. I mean, especially in an environment like you have. I mean, you mentioned it wasn't during qualifying because there's not qualifying, right? I mean, that's one of my things. One of the things about No Prep Kings that I'm actually a big fan of. A lot of these races across the country, they're kind of celebrated because there's extra qualifying, right? There's 4 rounds. Nope. This time there's 6. This time there's 8 rounds of qualifying or whatever. And that's fantastic. Whatever floats your boat. But man, you're talking a whole different animal when it's unload these cars and go drag race them. We're going right into eliminations. I think it's an exciting atmosphere that drag racing needs more of. Was there a moment over the course of the last weekend? I mean, for those that don't know, the No Prep Kings series kind of headed into your final stretch. We're 10 races into the season. You guys just visited our buddy Jim Hughes at Tucson Dragway. Was there a moment this past weekend, maybe during E1 or whenever you made a run in the card that you felt, you know what, we've got a car that can win again? I mean, we're right back where we were.
I'd say the first run we had a glitch. It went right, rear steer from Darlington. We had rear. Darlington always takes a little more rear steer. Forgot to take it out. Went right. No big deal. Come back, but you're still nervous about the whole deal. Come back and had a glitch in the software. Trans brake didn't hold. That was the second round Friday night of the team race. Come up third round right then. From there, I said, we got a car can win. I knew it then. I just knew it. You feel you've been racing as long as I have. I knew we had a car to beat, and we just stayed with it. After first round on Saturday, I said, well, we got a driver's hard to beat and a car hard to beat. This is going to be a tough one for them.
It certainly looked like it was going to be a tough one for them, watching along from afar, getting reports from people, getting videos sent to us. It's like, you know what? I think Lizzie's going to be right back in the mix here. One of the things that we've got a lot to unpack here because we're getting a ton of following and we're getting a ton of questions from people. But I'm curious, Can you take us through a little bit? One of the things that, and there's been people believe that I don't support No Prep Kings racing, or that I don't think it's high level racing, just tabling the competition. How much of a challenge, and how much does it speak to the professionalism of these teams, Pat, to race 16 freaking times in a season? I don't know that people understand the pressure that is put on the stars of No Prep Kings racing. I mean, NHRA Pro Mod doesn't race 16 times a year. NHRA Pro Stock doesn't race this many races in a row, right? Where it's back to back to back. What does that say about not only yourself and your race program with Lizzie, but all of these people out here in No Prep Kings competition?
It's just hardcore. I mean, that's all. But I am hardcore. Everybody knows that. If they don't know it, they need to know it. But, like Lizzie is a driver. She's got a mic on her all the time. She's got to do interviews. I mean, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I don't think people get aside from the racing. But the racing is about as hardcore as it gets. Now, saying that, you probably got 10 of us that are really hardcore and are geared up to do it. You got some guys, unfortunately, you're always going to have them that need to catch up. They need to get up to speed. But, it's become what it is. We can't go back. Everybody knows that about this sport. You either got to get with it or stop whining and being a girl on a keyboard. And you know me, I'm like you. Where are you? I'll come meet you. So I don't answer. I was listening to Alex, which I'm proud of her. She did a good job. I will not comment on Facebook. I will say congratulations is as far as I go, birthdays, but I will not get, because I don't know who I'm talking to. It's face to face when you see me.
Well, speaking of which, Pat, I mean, there's we got that some, hardcore nature is something that's coming up a lot. We talked about this earlier in the week, Pat, in an off-the-record conversation, and we can always count on you to kind of tell us exactly how you feel. I admit that I wasn't aware of this situation, but I reached out to my buddy Chris, Boosted GT Hamilton, a longtime friend of the show here, longtime friend of Drag Illustrated, and I said, hey, man, there's clearly some controversy around this past weekend's No Prep Kings event. Can you take me through exactly what happened? And he said, hey, man, it's actually really cut and dry. There was a couple of teams that tested at the track 6 days prior to the event. It's written in the rules that you can't test at the track that you're going to be racing at. I think it's within like 200 miles of the track or something. And apparently this was brought to light. And I believe it was Birdman, as he's known, James Finney and Mike Murillo were actually I don't know what, disqualified from competition. And I guess, are you the bad guy in all this somehow, Pat? I mean, how has this all come to be? Because it seems like everybody's mad at Pat Musi over it.
Well, they can, but I'm open. I'm in the pits. Come see me. But here's the way it started. Not explaining it. I'll just go through it really quick. So Kai pulled up to run Bird boys, Jerry Bird. They called each other out, which are done on all the teams. I mean, it's common in this no prep deal. And I guess Justin Schwarstrom seen an opening in the rules, which I really didn't know. You have to have your competitor in the other lane to get the points for first round. So they kind of sprung it on him last minute, not at the driver's meeting. I'm kind of used to something being brought up on a driver's meeting, but hey, he did what he had to do, and he got Kai's points taken from him first round. So I'm listening to this whole deal, and I'm trying to understand, are the rules done at the driver's meeting? Can we do them now? And then, which I was always looking at the rules guy and the producer of the show and Boosted, for a heads up what's going on here. And I said, look, what does that mean that we can protest something right now that was already discussed at the driver's meeting? And that was brought up, the testing for Murillo and Birdman, whatever you call him. Dino's got a good name for him, but I won't bring it up anyway. So he said, no, absolutely, you can do it now. I said, well, I'm going to do it, and let's see who goes along with us. And before I could say anything, he said the driver has to do it or the team has to do it. So I looked at Kai. He put his hand up, everybody's hand up. And the funny thing is, there were 4 or 5 teams with their hands up. So my point was, if we're going to go by rules, then let's go by all the rules. So I said, Kai's not getting his points. Then now all of a sudden you're bringing these rules up. So let's go by the rules here. I know better. I would never test at a racetrack. NHRA, you know how long I've been racing, guys. So I would have never have done it. But obviously they did it. They got caught at it. They got a pass at the driver's meeting. But I would, kind of was the guy to say, no, we're not getting a pass. I'm doing it. We're doing it, but we did it as a team. I'll be the bad guy. I'm fine with it. I wouldn't withdraw. I asked Justin if he wanted to withdraw and then take it to the next race. He refused to withdraw. So I said, okay, fine. If we're going by the rules, let's go by the rules. So then I heard some rumblings. Well, those guys are on their way up here. So I walked out in the open. Boosted was there. I said, guys, I want you to know it's me. Don't blame these other guys. Here I am, face to face. Well, why do we have to be the bad guys? Why are you picking on us? I'm not picking on you. It's a rule, period. It's over, done. They can do what they want, but my protest stands, and that was it. So they had the opportunity to say something to me there. Instead, they looked at their shoes, went home, and now they're like little girls on a keyboard. So that's all I want to say. We'll leave it at that. You know me. I'll be in the pits at Denver. If maybe they forgot to say something, guys. I don't know, but they can come see me in the pits.
And to be honest with you, man, and Mike and I think we line up on this type of stuff, man. The rules are the rules. And it's like, I had a lot of people shoot us messages going, well, hey, several people had broken that rule throughout the course of the season or whatever. But I don't know that really makes it. That doesn't make it okay to do it. The rules are there for a reason. And to your point, Pat, anybody that's followed NHRA drag racing, it's a cardinal sin. You are not allowed to test at the facility,
which
that
is
you're
kind of
be
it's a big
at.
deal that they're testing for the Stampede of Speed this week, because it never happens. But it's crazy to see how passionate people are about this No Prep Kings deal, and it's awesome. And Pat, you're not going to want to look at these comments. You're going to have a lot of addresses to visit, or a lot of people need to come to your pits after this. But just speak to that passion. You're obviously a passionate guy, and you're going harder now at nearly 70 years old than you did when you were in your 30s or 40s or whatever, running pro stock. So, what drives you and what motivates you about this No Prep Kings deal to go as hard as you do with this crazy schedule, cross country, back and forth, and the whole deal?
Well, it's become really competitive, really good racing. I feel I got the best driver I could put in the car because of her weight and the time we've spent together as a team. We've assembled the best crew. Everybody knows we got the best power. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm just telling you, when it comes to a nitrous engine, I think we've got our game plan down. We got a killer car Robert Hayes built, and our crew. We're tough to beat. So when you see an opportunity in this game, you need to jump on it. So, and I've always done that my whole career. If I see an opening, I'm taking it. Just like if I see a weakness in a driver, I hear them once in a while, drivers will say, well, it takes me a while to stage. Don't tell me that. Whatever you do, don't tell me that. So, again, I'm not going to change. I'm 70 almost, and it'll be real tough. I'm hardcore to the bone, and Lizzie knows that. She's seen me. She kind of shrugs sometimes, but she's learned a lot. I've seen the drivers, like I said, approach her, and they said, ain't you going to step in? I don't like my driver talking to the other driver before we're going to run. Never did, and no, she knows what she's doing. And I've seen her, yeah, okay, and do the opposite. So she knows. We talk scenarios for years and hours, and what can happen on the start line, and she's become a good driver. It's hard to get in her head. So we got a whole, like I said, a team, a driver, the whole deal. And I see an opening to be competitive, and we're gonna keep the pedal down.
How much has this impacted? One of the things that I remember as you became the preeminent, the dominant nitrous engine builder in our sport, that was largely something that was going on in PDRA competition, NMCA. I mean, there was a time, or excuse me, NHRA, NMCA, all these other sanctions and series. What do you see in terms of, with the No Prep Kings from a business standpoint, Pat? I mean, I think there are a lot of people that are of the opinion that, like, hey, it's great, go on there, you're going to sell a bunch of hats and T-shirts. But I think it's been bigger than that for not only yourself and Lizzie, but Pat Musi Racing Engines. I mean, is this part of drag racing, this segment of drag racing, a business opportunity in your opinion?
Yes, because it pushes our brand, but I do want to say something. And like you said, everybody's on the fence of where they want to be. Look, it's great for the whole sport.
Yes.
We're out there racing. We're showing a whole new audience what we do. I just can't believe the opportunity. Guys need to get on board. The sponsors have realized it. I can tell you that, the power of TV. I mean, you go back to me and Tony Christian, that Pro Street deal would have never been the rivalry as popular without the horsepower TV deal. So the TV deal is huge, but I just see an opportunity to get the word out of what we do, and then Discovery's done such a good job at, I was always, well, they're not going to air this till later. Everybody knows who won. You know what? By the time they air it, we forgot who won first of all. I do. And then they turn it into this reality show. It's amazing at the editing that goes on, and you just want to watch it. You want to see how it's going to turn out. Hey, I might turn out to be the good guy, the bad guy. I really don't care. You know that.
But it's good. Like a high tide lifts all boats, right? I mean,
it's good that they've got you there too, Pat. Like we talked about opening, it's good for TV that someone is willing to play the bad guy, if you want to put it that way, or just the family aspect, like we talked about with you and Lizzie. Alex Taylor, who we had on previously, talked about how her and her father, they are good at different aspects of the business of drag racing, or, how her father builds the cars and tunes the car or whatever. He's the gearhead and she focuses on promotion and business. How's the relationship with you and Lizzie as far as what each of you are good at and how you guys work together? Because you're obviously both very passionate individuals. So how does that work?
It's great. And I call father-daughter time, and my wife, Liz, I mean, she doesn't want it any other way. We're out there racing, and it's just really a great deal for our family and for our business and for the whole deal. But, I just want to see the sport grow. Sometimes it goes backwards a little bit, and, we have fan base. And that's something I want to take a second out here. I might not comment to you guys, but you guys are my fans, and I appreciate all the comments. But understand, if I answer one, then I get the bad, which I got to tell you, I listen to Alex, and she's got more patience than I got, and I give her a lot of credit for answering them, but I won't answer them. We'll see them at the races sooner or later. And, but I do appreciate our fan base. I just want all you guys to know that. Lizzie does. I do. And I don't want to seem like the hard guy, but when it comes to me, I want to see some legitimacy brought to this deal, and there is. And I didn't realize they had many of these rules. I had to listen. Boosted helped me. The rules guy helped me. The producer helped me through that whole deal. I wanted to understand what was going on before I opened my mouth. But we need to. I really like the fact that they have some legitimacy in place for this deal, because it needs it. But it's helping the whole sport in general. We're in front of a whole new audience. It's amazing.
Pat, one of the things that we hear a lot that I'd love to hear you comment on is that, and we're seeing it in our comments right now, is that there's this belief that everything that happens on No Prep Kings is scripted. You talked about, the editing that goes on and the way they tell a story, but the racing itself, I know we've talked about this before, but I would love to hear you kind of drive the point home that, and I'm not trying to be I'm not waving the flag here. I'm not trying to be the guy that drives this point home, but I do think I'm a little tired of the notion that all of this is decided. This isn't Monster Jam. This is not a soap opera. The competition is real, right?
Absolutely. Take the Ryan Martin run. We ran that. We're here working on that motor now because we had to run it as hard as we could run it. There is no scripted. We're racing. Let's take Kai and Lizzie in the final. I kept getting asked, are you going to lay down? No, John Force doesn't lay down against Robert Hyde or vice versa. Or, we're here racing. We're going to race. And I think we proved that. There's nothing scripted. I can tell you that. Are there, the way the rules are, first round on a call out, can a guy get a bye run? Yes, that goes on. But listen, it going in. That's what you deal with. These are the rules. But, when I heard rules are being broken for some, not for others, no, that ain't happening. Not around me, not on my watch, So I made a statement, it could have went either way, but I stuck with it. And I like the fact that I hope I'm bringing some credibility to the whole deal. We need that. It's a hardcore deal. We're racing hard.
When you look at the competition out there right now, it was a few years ago, we saw like a bunch of like back half cars that were, the technology, let's be honest, was a little lesser than what it is today. I'm not trying to take shots, but like the cars and the type of racing that Street Outlaws was built on the back of were, back half, fast bracket cars that are being raced heads up on the street or whatever. Now we're seeing purpose-built Jerry Bickle race cars, Robert Hayes race cars, 110, 112 inch wheelbase, like real deal race cars. Now they may have steel roof and quarters, but these are as good of a race car as money can buy right now. You said this earlier, and I think it was a fantastic, like super spot on comment. You can't put the rabbit back in the hat, right? But what's your take on the future of this, of No Prep Kings? And what do you make of the competition level we've arrived at? We got Justin Swanstrom in the comments here. He's got a Pro Charge latest, greatest Hemi. That's something that you'd see in Jose Gonzalez's car. You're out there with the latest, greatest nitrous stuff. This is not your dad's street racing.
No, it's not. The only comment you made was the wheelbase. They have to be within 2 inches.
Oh yeah, they do have to be stock wheelbase. Yeah,
they are purpose-built cars, but I'd like to see it not reeled in. But okay, guys, now we got it. We got a good deal. You have to have a purpose-built car, but these are the rules. Let's follow the rules. Let's keep if you look at that Bonnie car, it looks like a '69 Camaro lowrider. That's Robert Hayes. He wanted that look. Lizzie wanted that look. I wanted that look. Looks like the old Popeye Pro Street car. I want to try to maintain that. I don't want them looking like Pro Mod cars, so we're different. But yes, the chassis are as good as it gets. Suspension and shocks, and like you said, the motor, the best of the best. But they've all got it. It's not like they don't have the opportunity. They all have it. Ryan Martin's car is the best of the best. Kai's is the best of the best. The other guys need to get with their program. I'll tell you something more important than having the parts. I'm here since Monday rebuilding an engine. And I'm hearing these guys are out there. I don't know what they're doing, but they need to get to work. The work ethic is what my old man, it was funny when my old man hit like 70s. He would wear teenagers out that came in. I used to think to myself, now here I am wearing them out. Look at me. I just never give up, never quit. So that's one thing that I'd like to see more of is these guys need to get to work. We're doing a job. We're entertainers at the end of the day. Vinny Knapp, who is a good friend on Englishtown, always booked me at match races because of the way I come across. You're entertaining fans. We're racing, but we're also entertaining fans, and it takes hard work. You got to work at it, So the work part of it is what I think some of the teams need to get. Like I said, this keyboard deal, it wasn't my generation, You're not going to rebuild your motor on the keyboard, I can tell you that. So get to work, guys. That's what we're doing. We're here working. Haven't let up the pedal since we left Tucson, come to V's place, and V Gaines was nice enough to open the doors. That's one thing I'm blessed with. Through the years, I've made relationships that both of you guys know are hard to get. Edelbrock, Lucas, all of them, they think it's easy, but these are 20-year deals that I've known people. It takes a long time to get relationships. We have associate sponsors. Just everybody that helps us. It's just crazy, but it takes a long time to get them. You don't just get them like Alex said, it's hard work, you know, and being diligent.
Well, Pat, talking about that in your history and how long you've been at it, there was a little bit of history in Tucson, right? Tell us a little bit about your history there and how Lizzie's win kind of repeated that.
Let me just, my battery, I think, is going to go dead, but I hope it doesn't go dead, guys. On you. I didn't check my phone.
That's all right, brother.
So 1981, probably a lot of our viewers, they'll have to Google it. Don Nicholson, I beat him in the final at Tucson in Pro Stock Eliminator. And it was
got a shot of the trophy right here.
Won it. So 40 years later, here I am crewing my daughter's car, and she wins a major event, which is the No Prep Kings from Tucson. And I just thought it was cool. 40 years, an even number, you know, it was just one of them killer moments. So
in the same lane, right?
Same
You're both
lane,
in right lane.
Nicholson was in the right lane. And I actually beat him on a hole shot. Let me tell you something about, that's another thing. I guess that's where I get my hardcore, you know. I grew up with these old guys. I was 20 some years old in their 60s. And I mean, look, you race against Roy Hill. You talk about having thick skin. You get through boot camp. So I went through the Bob Gooden, the Roy Hill, all the boot camp, Warren Johnson, all of them. You know, they were hard on me, you know, as hard as they could be. That was their job, you know, but I learned a lot. So maybe people should, instead of bad mouthing what I do, sometimes learn a little bit. I'm trying to, you know, this is not a game. Like I made the comment when we had to swap that motor, you know, we're in a hurry, and Lizzie said, you know, go easy on these guys. Lizzie, we're at war right now. You understand that? It's war. We're not racing. This is war. And she looked up and she kind of got it. You know, my guys got it. They just dug in harder, you know. I mean, racing is tough, and it's a tough business. So like you said at the beginning, you can't have thin skin.
No, and I tell you, I think a lot of people, that is something that gets lost in our sport a little bit, because I've talked to television producer people types before, and people from the marketing world or whatever. And a lot of times they would look at like NHRA and some of the other like major sanctions in our sport, and they would go, Wes, it's almost too squeaky clean for its own good. Like we need to embrace the competition aspect. Like we can all be friends and we can all be respectful people and we can go to dinner after the fact, but like, we need you to demonstrate, to your point, Pat. I mean, you're at war out here. I mean, you're supposed to want to win, and we need you to show us that you want to win. And I think that we're kind of in a time, maybe in all of society, but specifically in drag racing, where no one wants to be the bad guy. No one wants to kind of say what they think because they're afraid of the repercussions and they're afraid of the ramifications. But man, if you're going to stand out here in this day and age, if you're going to rise to the top, I mean, you got to be loud and proud about it, right? I mean, and I think people confuse, I say this all the time, but being humble, it isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less, right? I mean, that's being humble is pulling over, opening a door for a woman, right? Being humble is knowing where you came from, but that doesn't mean you can't be proud of what you're capable of or proud of what you've accomplished. And I just hope that if anybody takes anything away from this conversation with you, Pat, and taking advantage of these opportunities. I mean, you named it. You're taking advantage of the No Prep Kings opportunity the same way you took advantage of the Pro Street opportunity. And you've used those moments and those opportunities. You've put yourself out there. And I don't know that there are many. Who else in Door Slammer drag racing has the following and has the name recognition of Pat Musi? Mike, anybody? I mean, there are very few, and we all know you. The whole world, people that have never met you know Pat Musi because you've put yourself out there for 40 years, man. And I just hope you know that we appreciate it. It's because of people like you that Mike and I and JT and everybody at Drag Illustrated get to do what we do. And I hope that some of the Pat Musi charm rubs off on these folks.
I do too. I want to pass it on. You know, I pass it on to Lizzie. I just want to say one more thing. If my battery goes dead, don't hold it against me.
We won't
bring a charger in here, but we'll keep going until the battery lives and you guys want to go. But yeah, I hope these guys they can learn more than bad mouthing, you know, just watch, get to work, learn something.
I agree, man. It's being a storyteller and being willing to put yourself out there. That's why I asked Alex Taylor that question, because young people, I mean, I can say this for myself. putting yourself out there and having to deal with the fallout or whatever of whatever you say, it makes a huge difference. I mean, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there. And I think that's what No Prep Kings has done so excellently, is they have introduced us to this cast of characters. You've got people you love to hate. It's incredible. I mean, we've done this show. This is our 236 or 226th episode of this show. And I'm telling you, we get more feedback and more comments when we talk No Prep Kings because everybody's got a stance. Right? Yeah. I mean, we talked about the NHRA national event in St. Louis, and this isn't a shot, and people take this stuff differently. I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but we talked about the NHRA national event, and nobody was on here saying Steve Torrance sucks or Erica Enders for president, but like we know more than start talking about No Prep Kings, and all these Justin Swanstrom fans are on here hating you, and all these Mike Murillo fans are on here hating you, and all these Pat Musi fans are on here hating them. And I'm not trying to like spread discourse, but this is good for drag racing,
this is
man.
What we need. It's so funny how that it just like a light switch flipped, and that's exactly what we're preaching on here. Is we need more of that, and that's why I think, like we talked about, Pat's willing to embrace that. That's why he's a good fit on the show. I give credit to the producers of the show also for seeing that and sort of, I think when people are looking at how do you get on No Prep Kings? How do you get on Street Outlaws? What's the secret here? I think this is the secret is being willing to put yourself out there and being the total package. It doesn't matter if you just dominate on the track and then go off into a black hole and no one hears from you. It takes both sides of it. And I think we've had two good examples of that today with Alex and with Pat.
Pat, last question before your phone dies. And this is I'm going to steal this from my buddy Clay Milliken. For those of you that don't know, Clay does a show on Facebook that's fantastic. He has an incredible YouTube channel. Clay Milliken, Top Fueled superstar, is on here watching along right now. And one of the questions he always asks on his show, Pat, is like, if you were king for a day, what would you do when it comes to drag racing or whatever? And I want to kind of reframe that. If there was one person that exists in drag racing that you could bring into the fold with No Prep Kings, who would it be?
It's funny because he's got 3 girls. You're going to laugh. Bring John Force. We need him. We need it. He says look, if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask Pat. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask John. I would love to have him on the show one time. I would. Yeah,
that's exactly what we wanted. Thank you. Because I always wonder that, because I always I daydream about this stuff, and I'm like, man, if we could grab this guy and that guy and bring them into the fold, how do you think Ricky Smith would do in the No Prep Kings environment? Ricky's somebody you've raced with a lot. I personally feel Ricky, when it comes to door slammer drag racing, is the greatest of all time.
Ricky was on here earlier. He said he thinks he could play the bad guy pretty well too.
Yeah, he's got a penchant for being the bad guy. How do you think Ricky would do in that environment, Pat?
After he got over the shock of what goes on, which took me a little bit, he'd be just fine. He could take it and he can give it out. I could take it, I can give it out. He'd be another one. That'd be great. But
I don't think Ricky gets enough of time to.
Sometimes I'll look over and I'll go, can you imagine if this guy was there or that guy was there? They wouldn't believe what's going on here. But it is what it is. But now I'm glad some of the rules came to light, so I'm aware of them. And Boosted was, by the way, thank you, was a great help. And the producer, and I think he's called Compliance, who does the rules, they all were fair about it, explained it to me, and I didn't just come off half-cocked. I wanted to know what was going on, and it is what it is. But, yeah, we need some of them faces once in a while, some special guests come in, it would be great.
It would be cool, man.
Ricky
be cool.
Doesn't get enough of a stage anymore, really, to show his personality, just the way the NHRA program rolls. So I think that would actually be pretty cool.
Ricky Smith on network television is a victory. That would be fantastic. Well, Pat, thank you so much for the time. Get back out there and get that Pat Musi Bullet 959 put back together, and get Lizzie a hot rod that's ready to race.
Ready to go.
Hey, man, we appreciate you so much. Tell everybody out there at Western Motorsports, V Gaines, and all the crew at GibTech, Winberg, all those guys, Madcap, tell them, hey, from us, we appreciate your time, Pat. And I hope to I'm actually going to come to the No Prep Kings in Ennis in a few weeks, so look for me. I'm going to come hang out.
Come on, hang out. I'll make you laugh anyway. So.
Oh, that's a fact. Thank you, Pat. We appreciate you, brother.
Pat.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Dude, I love how much interaction we get. It's fantastic. What's up, Scott Abramson? Good to see you, man. I'm
It
sorry.
was the same way with when we had Justin Swantram on a few weeks ago. It's instant feedback and interaction, which I just think is just fantastic. And just the excitement, that's what we're talking about when we talk about this No Prep Kings deal and the Street Outlaws deal. And not only does it have the industry buzzing or, internally, but the fan interaction also is awesome. So that's what we want to see more of.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm going to, JT, put me on here real quick. I'm going to dive in, give a couple of reminders real quick, and we'll dive into the final segment of the show, Drag Illustrated After Hours. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you all again for click and share, click and like, being a part of this. I want to remind you, if you don't mind, log on to the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and set yourself up to get notifications. It's a couple clicks, and we really appreciate it, so you never miss this show or any of the other content we put out on a very regular basis. I want to thank our sponsors here on the Wes Buck Show. Every week, this show is brought to you by our friends at Elite HP. EliteHP.com, a world leader in new and used race cars, parts, engines, everything under the sun, and a group of guys that actually speak the tribal language of drag racing. These are men and women that are well-versed in our sport, have over 100 years of drag racing experience amongst them. And if you're looking for parts, be it new, used, somewhere in between, a turnkey race car, a roller, an engine, transmission, log on to Elite HP, give these guys a shot, and tell them your friends at the Wes Buck Show sent you. I also want to remind you that the show is brought to you by Stroud Safety, the world leader, in my opinion, in safety products ranging from seatbelts, ballistic blankets, window nets, parachutes, and everything in between, gloves, fire suits, you name it, they got it, and it's all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com, and again, tell them your friends at the Wes Buck Show sent you. And our newest sponsor, very big moment for us. This seems to be happening quickly. We're bringing partners into the fold as often as we're putting out episodes, which is super exciting for all of us, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you all for supporting this show the way that you do. We appreciate it tremendously. Lastly, this show is brought to you by FlowRacing.com. If you're not a member of FlowRacing.com, I ask that you not only join the service, not only pay your $150 to join the world leader in live streaming, especially when it comes to motorsports, but join the movement. This is a group of people that are trying to grow and build the sport of drag racing. That's a mission that's near and dear our heart. It's been our stated goal since we kicked open the doors at Drag Illustrated Magazine in 2005, almost 16 years ago. Our goal has been to grow and build the sport of drag racing by celebrating the men and women who do it. Flow Racing, our friends at FlowRacing.com, they share that goal. They recognize that this is a group of people and this is a community that needs more attention, that needs a bigger platform, and they are providing it with their live streaming program. What they do for promoters throughout our industry cannot be overstated. They're putting money in the pockets of drag racing promoters from sea to shining sea, and I encourage you to join the movement, be a part of what they're doing for our sport. Log on to flowracing.com, sign up today, and again, tell them your buddy Wes sent you. JT, with that said, cue the music, and let's get ready to talk drag racing with our buddy Andy Carter. Oh, no sound for some reason. My bad. Music up late. JT, what's going on? I don't know why there's no music. I don't know why there was no audio. There was like a really silent, awkward, odd transition.
I thought about beatboxing again, but I know how much you guys like it.
All right, guys, we've got a lot to cover. Do you guys have cocktails ready? I've got a little.
JT does since 9 a.m. What you're saying, JT?
Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
That's right.
But that's the one.
Another T-shirt.
Oh, I've got several sayings. You're gonna have to be more specific.
No, well, I just wanted to tee.
When you're down,
too specific there.
What's that shirt say?
When you're down, stare at a clown, or go downtown, drink some Crown.
You hit me with that one the other day.
I did, yeah.
When I was
sorry, I'm late. Shots with murder tea.
Yeah, that's the show. That's the hey guys. We've got to be talking about that sometime soon because we're like a couple months removed, a couple months away from the 2021 running of the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show. Kind of crazy after everything that's gone on the last few years. It's hard to even wrap your mind around getting what's likely 100,000 people together in one giant room. But I am genuinely looking forward to it. And of course, the bash of all bashes, the biggest party in drag racing, DI After Hours, powered by Dodge, going down Thursday night at I believe the club is called what's it called, Envy now, which I think it's a really cool deal. We've partnered with another nightclub.
Looking forward to that.
Brand new remodel.
I envy them.
Changing the game again. This place, if you came to even last year's party, which was at a new venue,
We went there last year, but
I mean, sorry, 2 years ago. I just block out 2020. So
Yeah,
whenever I
might
say
as well.
last year, I mean 2019.
Yeah.
You're going to be in store for a surprise, man. It's going to be an awesome deal.
I think it's going to be a barn burner. Oh shit, I said it again.
You did.
I've said barn burner so much today. It's unbelievable. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this is something that was a little bit of a late addition to the show this week, but there's a multitude of reasons that I think it's important to talk about. We talked at the beginning of the show that drag racing needs big events. We need as many big events as we can possibly get. I mean, we point to things like the U.S. Nationals, right? I mean, Jason Miller's World Cup Nationals, World Cup Finals, up at Maryland International Raceway. There's a lot of big independent events. The NHRA obviously has several stops along the tour that seem more significant than others. The Gator Nationals come to mind. Events like that. And I'm really excited because I think this gentleman and his team at the Texas Motorplex have basically successfully thrown their name in the ring, thrown their hat in the ring, so to speak, as and putting on what I believe is going to be the biggest race of 2021. I'm, of course, talking about the NHRA Fall Nationals, the Texas NHRA Fall Nationals at the legendary Texas Motorplex, the house that Billy Meyer built, and the 8, 9, maybe freaking 10-day long Texas Stampede of
I think they've already started.
They kick off Friday. They've shut down Waxahachie, Texas. They've got a cattle drive going on Friday afternoon. And to be honest, and I'm going to bring this gentleman on in just a second, but it can't be said enough that there's a playbook being put out in front of us for how to have your event really take over, really have your event go at people from every imaginable way. And I believe this gentleman is responsible for it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my buddy right down the street here, Andy Carter, GM, Texas Motorplex. What's up, buddy? Ooh, that was a hell of a whistle.
Yeah. You guys didn't clap.
Oh, shit. Did he lock up? Please don't have locked
Must
up.
have locked up.
He may have locked up. We'll get him right back. Andy, come right back. He's his camera. He's locked up even on the green room. We may have to boot him and bring him back.
Yeah, we'll get him in a minute.
He's been waiting for freaking 18 minutes. I feel like a jerk. I got to tell you.
We got to have some green room time.
You do got to have
It's
some
real
green
nice
room
back there, man. We got a bar, full
you.
bar.
Red Skittles only.
Yeah.
No other colors.
Man, these divas.
I had some 4
kids.
kids lost their lives sorting those Skittles for me.
Yeah.
Kind of a sad deal. But somebody had to do it, and it might have well has been those 7-year-olds. But I tell you, this I got a press release yesterday from Elon Warner, part of Tony Fay PR, I believe to be one of the best-known PR guys in the drag racing biz. He sent out a press release yesterday, or maybe this morning, referring to the Texas Stampede of Speed as the richest week in drag racing. And I think that was a fantastic way to promote this event. Really, really, really smart choice of words, because we've talked about it a lot here, man. Talking about money matters, right? I mean, whether it's a golf tournament, a charity, what is the first thing everybody talks about? How much money we've raised, how much money we're giving away. And I just love that that's something that's not been a part of the drag racing conversation for a while, right?
We kind of led off with that with our World Series of Pro Mod, the biggest, richest drag race or pro mod race in the history of the known universe. I think that carried a lot of weight, and I think it really was the headline. So I'm excited about the richest week in drag racing. So
I think I want to be able to talk about the money. And I think that once we get Andy back in here, I don't want to steal all of his thunder, but during my kind of debriefing with Elon yesterday, I was just taken by the effort that's being made. They're putting up $40,000 in low qualifier money on Friday night alone. I mean, when is the last time the stars and cars of the NHRA have been kind of baited like that? Have they had a carrot dangle like that in front of them maybe ever before? I mean, to think that this track, the Texas Motorplex, has taken it upon themselves to pay tow money, right? I mean, they're putting money in the pocket of racers just for showing up. Now, granted, there's some, hey, we need you to come out here and make some good runs. We need to make some representative runs and participate. But the fact of the matter is, Texas Motorplex is putting their money where their mouth is. And I guarantee you, Friday night show at the NHRA Texas Nationals will be the best Friday night we see in 2021. And it's because that money. It's because there's a carrot dangling out there for these racers. And I believe we've got him back. Andy, are you with us, my friend? There he is.
There he is.
Sorry about that.
No problem, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us. You maybe missed my big introduction, but I just want to repeat that we surely appreciate what you guys are doing right down the road at Texas Motorplex. I know it's not just you. You've probably got a small army working on this deal, Andy, but we can feel it 50 miles away. People are talking about it from coast to coast. What's your take on the week ahead?
Well, first off, the fact that Pat was on my phone for that long, it got too hot and shut down. I don't know why. And then y'all having me on after him. I mean, I would rather follow John Force or somebody than Pat Musi.
Pat is hard to follow.
But yeah, we're super excited about this. This thing is growing its own legs and taking off. It's something that I've wanted to do ever since I came here and looking at the sport of drag racing and how we could make our events bigger and better, and things that worked out. Billy and Christy, his daughter, have backed us with the money, and everybody put it together and said, hell, throw it together and let's go do it and see what happens. Here we are, just days away from it. Like you said, we've got a bull riding, a country music contest, our concert, barbecue contests, parties every night. Wes, you don't know it yet, but I'm going to set it up. I want to invite you to come out and broadcast from here every day. We'll set you up a studio. We'll do whatever it takes. It's what our sport needs. From, the Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow, Scott Sturgeon Monday night. That's going to be just a free for all. Nothing scripted. We're going to run a bunch of crazy ass stuff. Scott Sturgeon's going to play some great music. We'll come back the next night with the Pro Mod show, sponsored by none other than Wes Buck and
the gang at Drag Illustrated, man. Yeah,
yes, sir. That deal's going to be off the chart. It was started off with how could we get allow the Pro Mod guys to test, but let the Outlaw guys come in and race. Well, you put up $50,000 and the NHRA guys start changing their cars. And so now we've got a bunch of NHRA cars that are basically outlaw cars. And so now we have to get them in to test on Wednesday so they can switch your cars back over. And, it's insane.
How did did you guys sit down with like a legal pad, Andy, and say, hey, because everybody here knows the traditional format of an NHRA national event is, Friday qualifying, Saturday qualifying, Sunday we're going to race. I'm curious where along the lines here in the last however many months or years this has been in the work, when did it kind of arrive to you that, what, we need to not only do we need to start on Thursday or Wednesday, we need to start on like Friday the week before, because it's, hey, myself, a lot of promoters, I think, pride themselves on hey man, we did something. We had a radio DJ come out on Thursday before the race. Well, you've got something going on a full week leading up over that. When did this whole idea start to come about? Whose idea was it? Where did it start?
Well, I think it comes from, Billy and I were having a discussion one day about, the 10 days of speed or something, but I get picked on a lot because my son's in the dirt track world. And if you ever go to Knoxville Nationals up in Knoxville, the city shuts down for a full week. They start racing, different types of sprint cars earlier in the week, and it just goes all the way through. And, the fans are insane. People are camping in people's front yards and all this kind of stuff going. And it's kind of like, why can't we do that here? So we, started looking at days. How do we fill up these days? What do we, put things together that the fans haven't got to see before? Like this Wednesday, our testing day, for $20, you can come out, hang out in the pits. I know there's 4 scheduled times for Nitro to run. you get four rounds of nitro in one day, and
For
and
$20.
Yeah, a different atmosphere than a national event. These guys are going to be, not many people actually get to see Monday testing, but it's always a gas. They're trying stuff and they're blowing stuff up, and it's and it's going to help us a lot with our Friday night show. With these guys have had these many hits at the track. Already know and figure out what they're doing. So
that's an interesting point that Warner made to me yesterday. He goes, man, look at a major league golf tournament, right? The players are allowed to play the course earlier in the week, right? I mean,
Yes.
Sometimes they play it a couple of times, right? And what it does is it serves to make the game better, right? Because everybody's got they've got a running start at it. They've been playing this course for a few days. And I used to kind of lean away from that mindset. But whenever I heard it delivered from Elon, I thought, you know what? You're almost ensuring yourself one badass show Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because everybody's going to come into this deal. I mean, I can make a case for no qualifying, trust me, and I can make a case for no testing. But whenever you're trying to put on an NHRA national event, you know what? I kind of thought, what's the shame in making sure everybody goes into race day or qualifying day with their program buttoned up? I think it's a fantastic thing, and it's going to ensure a hell of a show.
Yeah, well, for years, NHRA was the only ones that didn't do it. If you look at, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, all those guys get to test, the week. They get to see the track the week before, and that was kind of the conversation Josh Peterson and I had, and he agreed with me, which I was shocked. No pushback whatsoever. And so here we are with it. And, it's going to be something different every day. Just like I said, Monday night with Scott and we're calling it the Scott show. That's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's not old school, just drag racing and, pair after pair. It's, Scott's got both of his Pro Mod fuel cars coming. He's popped some ideas to me that are questionable to me. And I'm like, usually fun at game for anything. And I'm like, Scott, if you think you can pull it off, do it. We've got fuel teams coming that I gave Scott a budget to put a show together, and he's like, man, I'm out of budget. And we've got fuel teams coming and say, we don't want to be paid. We just want to be part of this because we think this is like going to be the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
So there's no telling how much stuff and what all we're going to get on Monday night. We're going to have the bike rack up. The fans are going to be able to come down to the starting line and be within 20 feet of a top fuel car with a beer in their hand. And
listen,
Perfect.
I've been waiting this whole show to do it. I've got goosebumps. I mean, my
there we
hair
go.
is standing up on end. I get so excited about this stuff because what I'm hearing in Andy is someone who gets it, man. You're creating an experience. This is that experience Monday night, being that close to a fuel car, being down there, part of the scene. It's such a unique experience. And that's the stuff that gets that young man or woman that's down there with a Bud Light in hand. We don't have a beer sponsor yet. Maybe let's plug Corona Premier. Down there with a Corona Premier in hand. I mean, he's a season ticket holder for the rest of his adult life, Andy. That's someone who's going to come back every year and support this deal. When you look at the whole week, I know I'm super excited. Monday night, there's a big money big money grudge race going on between Stevie Fast Jackson and Bubba Stanton. The fact that there's a guy towing from Mississippi, right, to run this dude on Monday night for an undisclosed sum of money is absolutely fantastic. Tuesday night, the Pro Mod show is going to be off the wall, $50,000 up for grabs. Incredible. You're going to have all sorts of like NHRA regulars showing up, but a whole slew of outlaw guys. I do believe there's another big cash grudge race going on Tuesday night between Frankie Taylor, kind of one of Texas's outlaw Pro Mod superstars and the owner of the quickest door slammer passed in the history of the world. His 348 or 349 with an 8, I think it was, at Rockingham Dragway many moons ago. But nonetheless, Monday, Tuesday night are going to be a barn burner. Then you've got protesting on Wednesday. You've got a pub crawl in Waxahachie. You've got Don the Snake Perdome coming in for a movie viewing. You're going to watch The Snake and the Mongoose, I believe, at an outdoor amphitheater in downtown Waxahachie. What of this? I mean, if you take a step back, and I know that it's kind of like my wife always says after she cooks us a big fancy dinner, she don't even want to eat it. right? Like she's been staring at it and smelling it all day. The last thing she wants to do is eat it, and she hopes we enjoy it. But I'm curious, I know you're the cook, Andy, and you've been behind the scenes for so much of this, but what are you looking forward to the most out of everything we've kind of outlined? Obviously, the national event itself. Is there a moment that you're really looking forward to?
Right now, honestly, Saturday night of Street Outlaws in about 3 weeks, when we're all done. It's hard to pick right now. I mean, I think Monday's going to be awesome. The Pro Mod show, I'm a huge fan of Pro Mods. I'd run Pro Mods here every week if we could. It's just, I think they're, insane. Those are probably the 2 days that I'm most excited about because they're not the normal NHRA event. Friday night, with us putting that money up, I'm really excited about that because NHRA has kind of turned the whole reins over to us. Al Tucci's flying in. He's going to announce all week, but he's taking over the microphone for Friday night for that qualifying round.
Holy shit, that's big news. That's a big happening.
Yeah, and everybody loves Tucci. He can bring some excitement to the track that very few people can. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of different stuff that night with our introductions, and we've got pyro and lighting and all kinds of different stuff just to enhance the race. Show. We've got big checks made up for our classes where we're paying the bonuses for the low ET, and they're going to be sitting on a stage at the top of the track on a saddle with a check, and whoever beats them is going to have to walk up and take that check away from them.
That's awesome.
I've told the NHRA, I've told the drivers, I don't want you to walk up and shake hands and hug and kiss like you do when you get beat at at the top end at a normal event. Show us some emotion. That dude just took a $15,000 check out of your hand. So
act like you care. Let us know that you don't love that. I mean, it's how much do you think that local activation, like there's a lot of other promoters that watch this show, Andy, and JT beats up on me. I want to turn everything into a Tony Robbins seminar. But how much do you think that engagement, that activation in Waxahachie, in Ennis, in the surrounding community, how much do you think that effort impacts your turnout on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because I know that's a tremendous amount of work, but I have to believe you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't believe it was going to be effective.
Well, I think it'll be effective. One of the big things we've got one day here, we've got a business meeting here, luncheon with local businesses in the county and surrounding areas that we're asking people to come out to. And we've got an economist coming, we've got some other folks coming, but it's to tie and explain to these businesses what they can do to get involved with the event and attract people to their restaurants, to their bars, to shop in their stores. I've told them, every one of them, if anybody leaves Ellis County with a penny in your pocket and those businesses don't get it, that's their fault, But if they'll get involved, it makes it better for the fans and they come. It's just like the experience I told you about, going to Knoxville for the, World of Outlaws, national event there. And the whole town shuts down and they're involved. And you get there and you feel like the town cares. And Waxahachie really does. They get it. They care. The Longhorn deal was Tuesday night. I was looking for some kind of a media opportunity, and I texted the lady over there, and she immediately called, and she's like freaking out on the phone. She's like, "Are you serious? You can put this together?" And I was like, "If you give me permission, yeah." So it's getting the community involved with what you're doing that will pay off for the fans. And what we're trying to do is be here for a full week, and the fans have something to do and interact with every day, whether it's at the track or a party at some local bar in town, or you name it.
Is any of this going to be live streamed, Andy, or do you have to be at the track, any of the pre-stuff before the NHRA?
I think talked with the guys at Flow the other day or several weeks ago, and I know he's looking for a show like we're putting on Tuesday night with the Pro Mod show. I've gotten behind and haven't reached out to him. I think that would have been a perfect opportunity. He's really looking for something that's a 3-hour show, something like that. And the way we're going to run Tuesday is, we're going to qualify earlier in the day and then stop and come back at 7:00. And that's our show. The top 16 pro mods, top sportsmen, top dragsters. They're running a race with us as well. So we'll come back with a production and a show. It'll be a 3-hour show. You can walk in, you see the start, the finish, and the middle, and be happy.
I think, and then the race itself will of course be available on NHRA.tv Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But we'll be trying to do our best to provide as much coverage of this as we can via Drag Illustrated. We're kind of in the midst of a growing partnership and relationship with Andy and the gang out at the Motorplex. I got to tell you, man, I think that. I think I can speak for Mike and JT. There's a couple of instances that come to mind for me, but I can't count the number of times I've gone to a city for a drag race and you show up at the local Applebee's or you show up at the local hotel. I don't really go to Applebee's anymore. They pissed me off, but I've been going to Outback a lot. They don't even know there's a race in town. You know what I mean? And it always blows my mind because we'll be 5 miles from a drag strip and I'm going, they don't even know that there's a race going on. And I tell you what, there's a lot of wisdom packed into what you're saying here in the things that you're sharing with us, Andy. And I appreciate you being so candid because bringing in an economist, bringing all these local business owners and stuff and letting them know like, hey, there's an opportunity here if you'll wrap your arms around it. And I hope that some of the other promoters in our industry learn from that because it makes a huge difference. I mean, even whether you're a fan, a member of the media, a crew guy, no matter how you fit into the drag racing puzzle, when you show up at a restaurant and they know why you're there, right? And they know you've been out in the sun all day or you're worn slick, or you show up at the hotel and they say, hey, you in town for the race? It does add to the experience, man. What's when you look forward, Andy, and we'll cut you loose. I know you've been on here for quite a while, but I'm curious, what's the pass fail for you personally? I mean, what are you looking to accomplish this weekend? I know that you guys have a long-term vision for this event, turning it into like a speed week, a Sturgis type of thing for drag racing. But what are you looking? Is it going to be packed out on Friday night that kind of makes you sleep, rest easy, and feel that you did what you set out to do?
I don't know. I'm trying not to hold my expectations too high. The first year, I always look at an event. It really takes 3 years to make it solid and people start expecting it and coming back to it. Our goal right now seems like it's, and we've got, we did $3 million renovation on this place and we're still not through. But we will be through before the race. So don't worry about that. New bathrooms for the fans, all kinds of cool stuff. But right now it just feels like it's just get through the week.
Yes, sir.
We know we're going to have mistakes. My policy with my crew has always been, you can make all the mistakes in the world. If the fans don't see it, it never happened. It can be behind the tire. It can be, screwed up as all can be. But if the fans don't know it, then who cares? So, we have problems, issues, fix it, go on, put on the best possible show we can. A lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing in the event this year that, we can't sit down and even in your show, we don't have enough time to talk about every little thing that we're going to do during the day, on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. But those are things going to be, the fans leave here going, dude, that was some cool shit. I'm coming back next year and I'm bringing my friends. And that's where it's going to pay off in the coming years of getting these fans. We've never done it before. We've got this big, huge kid zone set up. And it's big, bounce houses and climbing walls.
Wes loves bounce houses.
I do.
We'll never get him out of there.
But I mean, there's things like that people are going to come and they're going to, okay, well, hey, my kids got to go, they went and had fun over there. They didn't have to sit in the grandstands with me all day long. Or next year they go, well, hey, they had stuff for the kids. We'll bring, little Johnny with us next year. So maybe we turn little Johnny into a fan.
100%, man.
But, we're throwing everything we've got at it. We'll see what sticks.
What night's the biggest party?
Wednesday, bet.
Probably,
Don't you bet?
Well, so and y'all are going to be here for the whole thing. It doesn't matter. So every night will be a party.
This is very important to me, though.
We do.
I'm coming in late, whatever day is after this. So,
Yeah, so Friday night, we started this last year. It drove NHRA insane because of the whole COVID deal. But after we ran the race, I opened all the gates. We told the fans, I had Altici on the microphone. I said, tell the fans, come down the starting line. We're going to have a party. NHRA immediately went into berserk mode. Folks couldn't do it. I said, well, it's too late. We already told them we were. And we started rolling cases of beer out on the starting line. And we had a few, it was some small tire guys that we had come in and do an exhibition. They brought their cars up there. The fans, you would have thought it was John Force. They're getting autographs and pictures. And, you know, these are just some local small tire guys that
that's awesome,
they had
man.
class with. And then, so we got that going Friday night. After qualifying, we call it Friday Night Live party on the start line. Saturday night, I've got a band hired to play in Scott Palmer's pit. Yeah, we're actually, and Scott's sticking with death because he's like, man, nobody's ever done that for me. We're setting Scott pit a compound in the very front before you even get to the midway. So we're gonna have all these cars and crazy things displayed out there, but he'll be front and center. You know, when you come around the tower, you know, Scott's like, man, they usually make me park all the way in the back. But you know, anytime, you know, I think half the pro teams, they all love Scott, but they get irritated with him because they party and they're too loud. And I'm like, well, I'll just move you away from him. You know, so you know, it's as long as Scott doesn't bring the turkey out, we're all okay.
Well, I tell you what, brother, from your mouth to God's ears, I hope it, I'm going to say it for effect at this point. I believe we're staring down the barrel of a barn burner of a drag race. I can't wait to get out there, man. I appreciate your hospitality. And I've waited my whole life to have a national event track in my backyard. And I literally cannot wait, man. We look forward to seeing you next week. It sounds like we're going to be out there every single day. So God bless, man. Best of luck. I hope we have bright, sunny skies and great weather and a hell of a show, man. Great, safe drag race. So thanks, Andy. Appreciate all you do for the sport of drag racing. Thank you for setting the bar out here. And we will check in when all the smoke clears and this thing's all done 3 or 4 weeks from now, a month, and you've gotten a couple of nights of good sleep. We'll bring you back on here and break all this down. So thanks, Andy. We'll see you soon, buddy.
See you, Andy.
You bet, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
See you, Andy.
Man, what a show.
That
This has
sounds
been a
awesome.
hell of a show.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope that it's as successful as possible and that I'm glad to hear that they've got a game plan for multiple years down the road to really let this deal grow. And I hope this is the new playbook for events moving forward.
I mean, do you see
and
this
other
comment
tracks
here,
as well.
Mr. Baked Beans? I mean, I
Yeah.
hope Andy sees this is sounding like something I'd make the trip over from England for. And I mean, and that's
funny to
what
hear
our
him.
sport needs, man.
Absolutely. It's funny to hear him say he had a conversation with Josh Peterson and it went better than expected. And then, you know, NHRA threw a fit about this or about that. And it's good to hear that they are allowing some concessions for this to happen. And I think that they're going to be as interested to watch how this unfolds as anyone to see, you know, what works, what doesn't, and how this is the new playbook for events moving forward. So I'm super excited about it. I'll be down there Friday through probably the following Sunday. So we're going to be out there every day, right?
I mean, that's my plan, man.
I think the big announcement too is that
oh yeah, we meant to say that.
1 week from next week's show, live from the Motorplex. So
it's our first live remote, man. I told Andy and Elon, the guys at the Motorplex, like the way I envision this. And obviously we can't start at the finish line. Wes sure likes to do that. Wes likes to start very near the final vision. But I want this to be something that we do routinely. Do the Wes Buck Show on the road, treat it something like College Game Day, where it's an event. Right, we're going to do the show at the Texas Motorplex. I think this is going to be something that'll become an annual tradition, and I can't wait to see it grow. Our hope is to we're working on location right now. It's sounding like a conference room in the tower overlooking the track, but I mean, we're looking forward to bringing live in studio guests up there, maybe having something of a live studio audience, bringing some people up there to hang out and be a part of it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And again, we've said this a lot, but drag racing needs these major events that feel big and feel kind of, I mean, I know that there's a notion sometimes that these things take on a life of their own and they kind of become drawn out. But when there's a plan in place, right? When there's something going on every night and something to be excited about and something to look forward to, that's really where the magic is, man. And I'm genuinely excited. I hope that this is something that
Clay says count him in.
Clay says count him in. That's my man right there.
He's awesome.
What do you think about, like, what does this say? And I'm not trying to spin this at all negative, but we've got a few minutes here and I want to break this down. But like, it would seem to me that, like, we talked at the beginning of the show, guys, about how there needs to be a promoter at the helm of NHRA. And I find it somewhat, again, I'm not trying to be any kind of way, but it's like, how do we get NHRA to take this kind of ownership of these events, right? Because, I mean, if you look at the events that really stand out on the NHRA schedule, by and large, it's the efforts of the track and the people involved with the track. And maybe that's the way they want the relationship to work, you know? But I mean, you look at Bandamere Speedway, I mean, they are well known. The NHRA Mile High Nationals, they throw a block party in Golden, Colorado, take the city over. I mean, all the local activation with the high schools and all, I mean, but that's a reflection. That's a reflection of the Bandamere family, right? And what we're talking about here this weekend or this next week at the Motorplex, that's a representation or a reflection on Andy Carter, Christy Meyer, Billy Meyer, that whole gang. So I mean, I'm just curious, like, how do we? Or maybe that's never going to be the case, and maybe that's something that we just have to accept. I don't know.
I don't think it will be. And I actually think it's beneficial to have it almost like a neutral party or a third party. I guess probably in this case, what you wouldn't call it a third party. But
I think you need both.
Someone that's not NHRA. So the track can do it how they want it done, put their own spin on it. I mean, if NHRA was promoting this Stampede of Speed, it wouldn't be called the Stampede of Speed. It wouldn't have all this Texas themed stuff.
I agree.
It would probably be more generic or, you know, something that they could repackage and take to multiple events. So it allows the track to do that outreach to the local businesses that Andy was talking about, all those things that really the track and the people that work in the marketing department of the track have a better grip on than NHRA.
Well, and I know
still promote and market their own product though better.
For sure.
You know, like leading into that, the track does their part, you know, and then the NHRA does their part. You know, we're running commercials. We're showing why this is so exciting, you know, and where we're at and what we're doing, and that the points chase is tightening up. You know, I mean, there's no reason why they're not doing that stuff.
I tend to agree, man. But that's actually a great point. And I know that if you go back, I remember way back when Tim McCamus took over the American Drag Racing League and was running it. Tim's an astute businessman, very accomplished guy in our industry. And he was very passionate about forming a relationship, right, with a real partnership with the track. And I think that that's what we're seeing here is that they're putting some of the onus of promoting this and making it special on the track. The track's the best suited to do that. They know the local flavor. They know the local market. They know the local radio DJs, the local influencers, if you want to use that term. So I think it makes sense. But maybe what I'm really saying is that I just want to see more of this. I just love
when we all agree with that.
Right. I mean, that's really what it all boils down to. Clay Milliken just mentioned the NHRA Gator Nationals. I remember the first time I went to the Gator Nationals, and I was blown away by how involved the local community was. I mean, whether you went to the hotel, a fancy steakhouse, a dive bar, a wine tasting place, anywhere you went in Gainesville, people knew exactly why you were there. Oh, you in town for the Gators? Oh, you in town for the Gators? I remember calling a company. I can't remember what happened, but I needed a bunch of tables and chairs for something. So I ended up calling a bunch of rents and events companies. Every one of them I called, they're like, oh, you in town for the Gators? Oh, you in town for the Gators? I mean, they knew why I was there. They knew why I was asking for tables and chairs. They knew exactly where I was going. I didn't have to give them an address. They knew the racetrack. I mean, it's just, those things make a huge difference. And I guess what I am excited about is perhaps if Andy Carter and the gang at the Motorplex are able to really flex their muscles here and demonstrate, hey, here's a multi-day plan. We incorporate live music. We incorporate fireworks. That's something that he didn't talk about. From what I understand, they've got like a major fireworks show happening every single night. They've got some things that aren't real car culture centric, like this lantern release on Sunday night that they're going to donate a bunch of money to, I believe, a kids charity. I mean, they're going at it from every angle. And I hope that there becomes a blueprint readily available for other tracks that are hoping to put on major productions like this to go, you know what, we maybe can't do 9 days, we can't do 8 days, but like, Let's throw a party on Wednesday night. Let's do something on Thursday and bring the media out before the race starts. This is how it's efforts like this that'll take our sport to the next level, guys. So I know we got to wind this deal down. What else do we got to cover here before the day is over?
Oh, we got a few runs here if we want to watch those.
Oh yeah, we do have to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got enough people.
I even brought some wine. I even brought some wine for you today.
Mad Dog 2020. Oh my goodness, that's wine.
Let's hope that wine doesn't end up being the show.
Tastes better than most of the wine you drink.
Oh, now I'm gonna be honest, man. I haven't had any wine in a while. I kind of gave red wine up. I thought my face was getting puffy.
Yeah, I gave it up to you a long time ago. No, I don't know. I just never liked it.
So I'm like, I got to cut back. I'm not gonna.
I've had that 2020 since college.
I only had it once in high school. I had it once in high school. I really did. I had it one time in high school.
I made you drink some here one time during the show.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Actually, Night Train was the thing in college. We had Night Train night. And
what was that other? What's it? Something Hill. What's it called? Something Hill. It's
Boone's
like
Farm.
Boone's Farm.
Yeah, Boone's Farm.
Boone's Farm.
Those will ruin you. Those ruined
me
on wine for 20 years or whatever, and then you just start getting.
You don't buy that. You just snatch that out of someone's hand and chug it, and then hand it back to them and laugh.
Holy crap, dude! I do want to talk about, since we're on here and we're having a good time and we've got a big audience. I want to. Where are my notes about these runs? JT, this needs to get talked about. My buddy Mike Salinas did not win this past weekend. He went to the finals at the NHRA National event in St. Louis, the NHRA Midwest Nationals. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, but this is a run. We talked about record setting season. We're amidst it right now, September, October. If you're a drag racer, this is the time of year you wait for. It's exciting. And this run right here, I'm going to start this thing over here.
Leah in the right side. Trip Tatum. Number one.
My bad. Look at this thing. Ooh. Holy shit.
That was like the old days right there.
Bam.
5, 2, 327 miles an hour.
Third quickest run, I think, in the history of Top Fuel drag racing, man.
Probably deserves a shot of Mad Dog for that run.
Mm-hmm. Dude, 292 to the 8th mile.
Incredible in the early part of the run. Mike Salinas goes
just a stunning performance, man. I hardly know. I mean, if you look at this deal right here, it's been a hot minute since we've seen Top Fuel look like that.
Yeah.
Like this shot right here. I'm going this. That could be Blaine Johnson, right? Yeah. I mean, it could be Gary Selzy in the Winston Top Fueler. I mean, that is such an incredible run. And I actually reached out to the NHRA for a clip of Doug Coletta's run. I wish I had it in front of me. I don't. We weren't able to get our hands on it, but Doug Coletta made a run on Friday night that wasn't a 360. I think it was like a 370 flat, but the car did the old drift over. Let me turn the sound off. The car did the old drift over toward the center line and skated back over with the flames lit. And it was one of the most visually spectacular nitro runs that I've seen in a really, really, really long time.
Night runs. That's what we need, or dusk runs like that. Come on, more.
And that's another thing.
Is we only see that during the countdown, and like during the middle of summer or something. It's like we're done at 3 p.m.
What's wrong with what's that about?
I really don't know.
You got to get everybody out in time to eat.
I would love to know what the deal is with that. But I noticed that as it gets later, maybe it's just because it's getting darker sooner as we get to the later part of the year. But thank God for nighttime nitro runs. I wouldn't run a nitro car unless it was nighttime on Friday.
Well, I know that Andy Carter, they went to the guys at the Motorplex, told NHRA, like, what is the how late can we run Friday night nitro? And I think they're pushing for like after 8 o'clock. And I think there's a great comment here. Top Fuel 173 watching along on YouTube. Thanks for following us on YouTube. I appreciate everybody really embracing that platform. It seems like a lot more people are watching on YouTube this week. So thank you for that. But Top Fuel 173 says NHRA needs a Saturday night race. I love that idea. The Bristol night race is, we're talking about huge events and kind of standout happenings on series schedules. The Bristol night race is a thing. People go to both Bristol races for that reason, right? Because it's a totally unique experience. And I think the NHRA would be well served to have some sort of night race. And maybe we're going to see them trend that way at the Motorplex here.
Wrapping up the Mike Salinas deal, went all the way to the finals. I mean, it's one thing to make a hero nighttime Friday night shot, but then go all the way to the finals on Sunday, and had that thing not drifted out of the groove or whatever happened there. I mean, he had an 0-11 on Torrance's uncharacteristically late. I don't know exactly what the ET or the reaction time was. It was in the ones. That was shaping up to be a hell of a race. And he really, if that thing had stayed in the groove, might be a different deal. So, but again, Torrance, he's there and able to capitalize.
You can't let that guy
can't make a mistake.
You can't give Steve Torrance an inch. And how about this? Sean Belt. I don't know if either of you guys know Sean Belt, but Sean and I go way back. This is a blast from the past right here. Driver of the Metal Mafia, AA fuel altered.
I remember this from the early days of Drag Illustrated. Sean Belt is the man. He's a Midwest guy, right?
He's a Midwest guy. He's a Kansas City guy.
I was not familiar with him, and you're like, this dude is.
This dude showed up at one of my events in 2005, right? So it's been like 16 years ago, and he had like a conventional headed big block Chevy on 100% nitro, and I'm like, bro, this seems like a horrible. I mean, it was like the engine out of a Suburban with a blower and 100% nitro. And it was just, and he was like 20 with these big earrings and a mohawk. And I'm like, man, drag race, you're built for this sport, man. And always put on a hell of a show, did big, nasty burnouts every time he came to the starting line. Drag racing needs more Sean Belts. But go ahead.
My insurance agent just walked in.
Oh, really? Chad Sawyer?
Yeah. I wonder if he heard that I wrecked my golf cart.
Another golf cart wreck.
Yeah, at least I got it insured, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Chad.
Sorry, Chad.
Let's talk about these other.
I want to throw this one up here. Let's stay in the nitro mindset real quick. Because I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, and I really didn't mean to be offensive. I recognize that it maybe was now after the fact. But if this is an ass whipping that you don't see that much at the highest level of drag racing, I'm going to throw this down here for everybody. Matt Hagan going head-to-head with Bob Tasca. Final round of the NHRA Midwest Nationals. Hagan in the right-hand lane here. Dickie Venables taking over the control thing to shut the car down. Not going to happen. Matt Hagan rolls in, leaves first, never looks back. And right now, Matt Hagan's got that freaking giant leg of his on Bob's throat. That's what happened.
Look at the car bouncing up and down here in this next shot. I think that's Matt in there doing his deal.
He's probably in there
He's probably moving that car.
Well, it's the 39th career win for Matt Hagan. It is your very first here in St. Louis. What will you remember about today?
Yes, ma'am. This is the first one here in St. Louis, and
I love Matt
got a
Hagan.
brand new sponsor with New Holland. I'm bringing home a trophy for him. And, it's just what a great day. And such a great day on the points for us. Out here with Dickie Venables. I mean, him, Mike Knutson, and Alex Conway. They just got this car running, and I'm just glad to be driving it. It's a lot of fun.
Dude, look at him.
Nice.
Wound up like a physic woodpecker. Like
New
that
Holland,
is what we need.
It's harvest season here right now. He's got that New Holland. Everybody's running right now.
That was a great top end interview. I love seeing that kind of excitement
about that
enthusiasm.
sponsor
too. He like the photos he posted on social media earlier this week. He's pointing at the logo. He's got his jeans on and his cowboy boots. He's in full farmer. It's just I love seeing that kind of enthusiasm. That's I think the second race win he's had this year for the first time. Like he won Denver for the first time back in the summer, won St. Louis for the first time here today. And real quick, I mean, we talked at the beginning of the show, how many of these guys leading the points will ultimately become champions. I don't think one of the things that I've been talking with people a lot about this week is John Force is who's nipping at his heels. Right. And I just don't know. No matter how dominant Matt is right now and how good that car is, he's won 3 out of the last 4 races, one without him even in it. They clearly, to your point early in the show, Mike, has perhaps the best team in the Nitro pits right now. But I just don't think you can write off John Force. Like if he's the guy you've got to contend with, it's going to be a problem.
Well, let's go to the other person you've got to contend with when it comes late to the season. In pro stock.
To do it. Where does that inner drive come
I'm
from?
going to throw this back here at the beginning. My bad. What a drag race right here, guys. If you weren't watching this live, you missed out. Dallas rolls in, turns on the top bulb. I think this is these guys, he likes to get in there and stage. He's not going to wait around, right?
The pro stock
taking a little bit of time here. Look at this.
Just a little bit more.
Yep.
Both drivers sit in
Erica gives up,
She
rolls
doesn't
in.
rush, but she will go in first.
001 reaction time for Glenn. Erica was 10 on the Christmas tree. Finish line stripe. The win light comes on for Erica Enders. 6:57.2, 207 miles
Team
an hour.
Elite
She
losing
wins
their
by
mind. Royce
2,000ths of
Lee
a
Freeman
second.
punching the
Nicolette
air there. I'm
Career
glad I'm
entry
not the
number
air.
Courtney's going crazy.
I
Yeah.
wonder what the
Final round.
radio budget is for
And Erica Enders
in Elite,
the
because they
heat
just
up when you
the
needed
radios
to
just
do
go
it. Where
flying
does that
onto
inner
the,
drive come from?
onto the track.
I don't know, Jamie. I'm just thankful that the good Lord blessed me with it. There's a lot of people that have carried me through my struggles here, especially my dad, my sister, my 2 crew chiefs. I talked to Rick Jones on the phone this morning before the day got started, and he said, you're the baddest there is out there, and sometimes you just need to hear that from people you love, but it takes a lot of digging deep. Mark Ingersoll and Tim Freeman, they both told me up there, you said you go 10, you can't lose, and I don't know how, but we did, and we just continue to dig deep. But for Melling Performance, Gallagher Insurance, Transportation Impact, Gun Skins, High Performance Lubricants, Dave, thank you so much. Man, this is awesome. Three St. Louis's in a row. Happy birthday to my dad. And our town of Sulphur, Oklahoma lost a guy a couple weeks ago, Daniel. So we're gonna do this in his memory. And my good friend Mindy Stevens lost her dad today. So happy birthday, Daddy. We just won St. Louis.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, listen to me. All right, both of you guys. And I want to be like, she's the best race car driver alive. I'm being honest. I mean, everybody can say whatever they want, man.
When the chips are down, high pressure situation again. I actually talked to Chase about this in Charlotte. I think he mentioned something that we had talked about on the show, and he confirmed their mentality. You know, obviously they don't want to qualify in the bottom half of the field, and they want to be, as far up the ladder as possible. But they're all about race day. Yep. Just give them a shot on race day. And
I'm not trying to shortchange anybody, but give her a shot. That's right. I mean, that's give her a shot because she doesn't need the best car. She needs a good car, a good enough car, and she's going to close the gap more often than not. And I'm telling you what,
your mom's in the comments saying you have goosebumps.
Fantastic. Great. Listen to me though, right here. I've said in the past that I think she's the greatest female race car driver of all time. I think she's the best there is in the game right now. Hands down. If you were putting together a team and we were doing the starting lineup deal like you do in stick and ball sports, and you go, who are you going to build your team around? Right? If you could draft one player right now to build on and to build a championship level team, if we're talking drivers, you're a blithering idiot not to put Erica Enders in that hot rod.
She was 0-10.
She drove that bitch back.
She was 0-10 in that round and left the line second. This
interesting enough.
Dallas Glenn with these triple O's and double O, whatever. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a driver have more triple O's and low double O reaction times in his rookie season.
Dude, listen, if I'm at Dallas Glenn, Sunday night was rough.
She came on the top and dunked on his ass.
I hate to say it, man, but that's like
I
a
showed her how to do that in
posterizing.
Saudi. Remember?
I do remember that actually. But it's like you got to admit, like, I mean, and this is where we get to let it all hang out a little bit. But like the fact of the matter is, man, like he couldn't have done a better job. I mean, if you lose that race, that's gonna haunt him for a long time. Because I mean, it just is. I mean, and it's great. I mean, they always say the best thing you can be in sports of any type is, to be like a goldfish or whatever and forget things quickly. And I'm sure he'll brush that off and head into Texas with a full head of steam. He's obviously a threat out here any given Sunday. But man, to lose that race, he did a fantastic job. Dallas Glenn, 100% class, great young man. But to go 0-0 and go home, a loser, go home runner up. That's
how tight it is in
deal,
pro
man.
stock too. Greg Anderson talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That's been the after effect or whatever of their movement to get this talent to kind of level the playing field, if you want to call it that, with the engine leasing program and to really save the class. And man, I think it's working.
Yep. No, it's personally, I think they're absolutely crushing it over there. And it's, right now, I still think they've got a dogfight ahead of them. And I'm just excited to see how this whole thing plays out, because if we were looking for storylines to talk about and we've been blessed with one, Erica Enders v. Greg Anderson. This is going to be something that I think we're going to get to watch back and forth. They're both clearly in the hunt. They both got killer hot rods. it's going to be a lot of fun, man. And it's really
kind of has been the storyline for a few years now, really. I mean, like it's kind of stole the show as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
I think they have stole the show, but I'll tell you what, I mean, and I guess I'm probably spacing that it was just like this a couple of years ago, but am I wrong that we're kind of getting blessed with this across the board? I mean, Top Fuel, Brittany, we didn't even really talk about this. We talked about Steve Torrence taking out Mike Salinas in the final. I actually don't have that video queued up here right now, unfortunately, but Steve Torrence and Brittany Force, this is going to go down to the wire. Matt Hagan, John Force is going to go down to the wire. Greg Anderson and Erica Enders. I mean, this is some badass drag racing that we're getting blessed with. And man, I just feel lucky to get to watch it, like up front. You know what I mean? We got killer seats for this stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey guys, we've got. Do we have anything else? Oh, I do want to remind everybody. There was one thing we threw in the comments here that I think everybody kind of gets a kick out of. Our friends over at Elite HP, every week they send us a cool car to check out. They've got a brand new hot rod on the lot. I think it's cool that EliteHP.com has such an incredible array of different cars for sale. If we want a 2,500 horsepower twin turbo Lamborghini, they got one. Or if you want a pro street, like no prep king style,
this thing's bad.
Chevy,
this thing is badass. I love the 55 Chevy theme of today's show with Alex and now this.
I didn't even think about that.
Nice,
man.
Mike.
I've actually got the skinny on this deal, and this car was actually built specifically for No Prep Kings competition, which I find interesting because I wonder how many chassis shops guys are getting that phone call. Look at the attention to detail
shifter,
there.
Man.
Look at the dash.
Well, that's nice.
Isn't that nice? Race pack dash. I'm a big race pack dash guy. I've got a affinity for them that I'll never be able to shake loose of.
Can you say that 10 times fast in a row?
Race pack digital dash, race pack digital dash, race pack digital dash. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. But for real though, how nice is this thing straight as an arrow? And these are the type of cars, to Pat's point, that I think that they want to see showing up in No Prep Kings. I've been worried that thing was that they were going to kind of succumb, give up and go, you know what, if we want to get big time participation, we're going to have to let carbon fiber bodies cars in, and we're going to see a bunch of late model Camaros.
No, they're pushing the envelope like a Ryan Martin is. And I think Pat is, even with Lizzie's car, even though it looks, like a stock 69 Camaro, they're doing whatever they can within the rules there, but also keeping it very, very, pro streetish. It reminds me of the pro street days.
Here's the cool thing.
That's like Justin built his car, something different. And man, it's that you got to relate to these guys, and you got to pick a side, right? And what better way to do that is the different body styles.
Mm-hmm. JT is his favorite phrase. If mine's barn burner or I've got goosebumps, yours is something different. He loves something different.
I do. Well, I don't want to go buy the same damn truck someone else is driving. I don't. No,
I mean, and JT's always about something different, and I think that for the longest time, that was like the theme of drag racing as a whole, right? I mean, you went to great lengths to do something.
Why you did it, especially when it came to these door slammer classes. I mean, I really think they originated because they wanted to do something different.
I think so too. And if you look under the hood of this is something that I think is exciting. And to be honest, that's a like Scoggin Dickey crate engine, right? I mean, that's a 548 Chevy headed deal with an F136 blower on it. And I just think that's cool because while we had some, we had Pat Musi on here, and I know Lizzie's cars likely got the latest, greatest 959 billet badass nitrous engine in it, right? The same thing that freaking, Tommy Franklin's got, or Ricky Smith has. That's awesome. But it's also cool to think that you can go race at that high level, right? And in this huge audience, this giant platform, and do it with something that's a relatively readily available engine combination, right? I mean, it's like a blow through deal.
Helps out, so you got to get that power to the track. So
right. So it's less important to have 15,000 horsepower. I mean, you can come in with 2,500 and be able to use all of it it reminds me of like Billy Glidden, back in the day, man, him showing up in Outlaw Extreme 10.5 in the 80RL, and he had this little 400-inch small block, right, with a ton of nitrous on it. And most of the guys he was racing against had, blown Hemis or 762s from Rear Morrison or Gene Fulton, but those guys were only able to use like 60, 70% of their power, where Billy was using 100, right? I mean, Billy was using everything that thing had to offer.
Was that the GTO?
That was when he had that silver GTO, man. No, that was the Mustang. Excuse me. He Yeah, it was at that time was a GTO, and I believe he put a Mustang body on it. If I remember correctly. You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It wasn't an ex Pro Stock car, ex Mark.
Yeah, it was an
car
ex NHRA Pro Stock car. Good on you, Mike. Yeah. Fucking student of the game. I think I just said the F word. My bad. Anyways, guys, what else do we got to cover here before we call it a day? There's a handful of things it seems like that we had in our notes, but I know we've been talking for 3 hours and 20 minutes. I want to give a huge shout out. We've had an incredible audience today. Thank you guys so much.
Big shout out to can we say the word, JT? YouTube.
Man.
Can we say YouTube?
Shout out to the YouTube. We've said it enough times already that Facebook's probably already.
We've even seen a couple people cross over and comment that they're enjoying it over there. So stay over there because
stay over there on YouTube.
In a couple weeks, we're probably going to head that direction, and that's where the show's going to be. And you know, it's nothing against this platform as well. We'll use it as well, but you know, we're a little bit sick of them telling us what you can and can't see and who we can show it to, and.
We actually let JT make all of these decisions just unilaterally. We don't even question it. So he said that's what we've got to do, and so we're doing it. I mean, I hope it works. How about you? I
just text him about 1:30 in the morning. You know, after my favorite eating joint shuts down.
I've been thinking about this show, and we're gonna just screw Facebook. We're putting it on YouTube only, nowhere else. You know, they're gonna have to wear rabbit ears to watch.
But seriously, guys, tell a friend. That's the thing. Is as in so many walks of life and so many types of business.
Oh, YouTube doesn't get flagged at work. Someone says.
That's great point. But word of mouth matters. It really does. So if you enjoy the show, send it to someone, share it on your timeline, share it on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, email the link to somebody. We really appreciate it. And again, your engagement, Mike and I have been talking about this kind of ad nauseum for the last several weeks. Your engagement is really what makes the difference. That's what makes this so special, in my opinion, and in our opinion, is that we're able to go back and forth with you guys. We've been publishing a magazine now for 16 years. We recently sent our 170th issue to print, and I couldn't be more proud of what this team here at Drag Illustrated has accomplished. I believe we have the #1 magazine in drag racing, but we recognize that it's a little bit of a one-way message, right? We send this magazine out every month, and we do get great feedback after the fact, but it's a little bit slower of a burn. So to have this opportunity to put content in front of you and get immediate feedback and to have an ongoing live discussion, we see it as a great honor and privilege, and we genuinely appreciate you guys being a part of it. So please click click share, spread the message, send it to a link, tell a friend, or send the link to a friend, tell somebody about it. And I guess until next time, we'll see you next Wednesday live from the Texas Motorplex. Did you notice that
cover I showed?
Which one was it?
That was Lizzie, 84.
That was 84?
Yeah, we just
100 issues ago?
That was like the first Women of Power issue, correct?
It was. I think it was the second, actually.
Was it the second?
Yeah,
I think Alexis DeJoria was on the cover of the first.
Yeah,
one.
Alexis DeJoria was on the first, but that was Lizzie before she
Dude,
that was like she had just
out.
come on the scene. Yeah, so she was. We called our shot there also.
Don't you think it's crazy to think about some of these folks that like we've been talking to them for a long time, and they're only now like reaching kind of like household name status in drag racing. It's kind of an amazing thing.
That was February 2014.
Yep.
That's really not been that long ago though.
It is 7 years ago. It doesn't seem like it. But.
Is that true? Yeah. Well, I'm not great at math.
7.5 years ago.
Guys, I appreciate you all so much. Thanks for joining. Mike, thank you. JT, thank you. Great job, guys. Thanks to Pat Musi. Thanks to Chip King. Thanks to Alex Taylor. Of course, Andy Carter, our friends at the Motorplex. We'll see you guys next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, live from the Texas Motorplex. If you're in the area, please, we're going to get permission from the Motorplex to bring some people up into the studio. We'd love to have something of a studio
and
audience.
We may try to go live and do more, not necessarily more full-blown shows like this, but just pop on and show you guys what's happening down there, right?
That's the goal. That's the goal. So thank you guys all so much for joining us. Huge shout out to our friends at Flow Racing, Stroud Safety, Elite HP for keeping this thing rocking and rolling, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks, guys.
Later.